Chapter 453. The scene was completely silent. Even those AI robots had stopped delivering the wine. After feeling Zhou Jie's oppressive aura, they were all trembling in fear. Let alone a human. This is a clamor from a rank 1 martial warrior, in this small Long and city, who dares to provoke him. Even Lu Qing, who is also a rank 1 martial warrior beside her, doesn't dare to. Because Zhou Jie is only 16 years old. His future is limitless. Shi Sihan stood at the side and didn't say a word. In her heart she was cursing this trash. If not for him suddenly rising up, how could I have been beaten by my father, and even more so, I lost face in front of so many people. Tomorrow, this news will go viral in the entire Long and city. Even Shi Sihan thought of the title, Gold Digger Gets Slapped in the Face. Zhou family's young master rises up again, Long and city. Tremble. Zhou Jie, what kind of man are you to bully a girl and a child? Fei Bai stood in front of Zish Qingyi and Dong Huang. Zhou Jie mocked. Fei Bai, I already told you just now. Scram back to your bishop faction, don't behave atrociously in my territory. Zhou Jie, so what if you are a rank 1 martial warrior now with your character? You are still trash. Zhou Jie suddenly laughed out loud. This year, I have been suppressed too much, and now I can finally let it all out. Who can understand this kind of feeling? So what, even if I slap your face, who dares to speak up for you? After finished speaking, he slapped towards the empty space. Fei Bai was directly slapped and crashed into the table beside him, causing the food to scatter all over the floor. Fei Bai! Zish Qingyi cried out in shock, then ran forward. He didn't suffer much, he just got slapped in the face. Slapped across the air. This scene shocked everyone once again. This requires a very strong spirit control to be able to do this, not to mention that the slap was concentrated at a single point. There was also strength and other factors. I didn't expect this Zhou Jie to actually be so powerful. In a few years' time, he might even be able to break through martial warrior and become martial master. At that time, even if he goes to the imperial capital, he would still be able to have a seat there, and he might even be able to meet the Federation president. In a few decades, he would become a martial king. That would be the 4th martial king in the entire Federation. Everyone felt that they were witnesses to the future martial king. They were all very excited and did not dare to say anything more. Even if Zhou Jie killed someone, they would feel that it was only natural. A piece of trash dares to clamor in front of me, Zhou Jie? Beating you is like beating a dog. Drag them out. Zhou Jie coldly snorted. He did not care about anyone's face. In the future, his name would spread throughout the entire Ashen Blaze star, or even the entire galaxy. As long as he appeared, everyone had to kneel to welcome him, and he could choose any woman he wanted. Thinking of this, Zhou Jie laughed arrogantly. It seemed like he had suppressed it for too long that his heart had become distorted. Bang, bang, bang. Suddenly, 3 muffled sounds rang out. The guards in the mechas were sent flying, and one of them was deeply embedded in the wall, the kind that couldn't be pulled out. However, this was not the main point. Everyone was dumbfounded as they stared at that small figure. Just now, it was her who stretched out her meaty little hand, and as if she was throwing away a doll, she threw away the 2-meter-tall burly man. Fei Bai and Zish Qingyi were also dumbfounded. In their hearts, and even everyone who participated in the test, they subconsciously thought that it was the machine that had malfunctioned, and it wasn't Dong Huangli who sent the 3 men in the mechas flying. However, when they saw how easily Dong Huangli threw away the 3 men in the mechas, they immediately felt dizzy. After all, the people in the mechas have strength as well. According to the level of the mechas that the guards were wearing, they should at least have the strength of a rank 3 martial disciple. Although Zhou Jie was shocked, he quickly felt relieved. After all, knocking down 3 of his family's guards wasn't a big deal. Traces of tears could be seen at the corner of Dong Huangli's eyes. Evidently, she was angered to tears just a moment ago. With a choking tone, Dong Huangli said, "No wonder everyone is ignoring you, so it turns out that you are so hateful." So what? The strong are respected. Right now, I am not someone that you all can afford to offend. Gao Can, if you have the guts, scold me one more time. Zhou Jie looked towards Gao Ken, who was within the crowd. Just a moment ago, Gao Ken was very good at stirring up the crowd, but right now, Gao Ken no longer utter a word. Gao Ken, who was within the crowd, lowered his head and remained silent. If this Zhou Jie was only a martial artist, I can still scold him one more time. After all, my brother is also a martial artist, but Zhou Jie is a martial artist. Little friend, take a look, who dares to scold me? Zhou Jie spread out both of his hands and had an expression that seemed as if no one in the world dared to scold him. You are an idiot, Ali looks down on you. Dong Huangli couldn't help but scold Zhou Jie. My mother taught me to be a sensible and polite child, but this Zhou Jie is truly too hateful. Ali wants to scold him. Everyone was very shocked. How can this child be so immature to actually scold a martial artist? Not only did he scold a martial artist, he even said that he looks down on a martial artist. Oh my God! If a martial artist were to become angry, no one would be able to withstand his anger. Facing the scolding of a child. Furthermore, the child scolded so innocently, as if what the child said was a fact. This kind of feeling made Zhou Jie very unhappy. Little wimp, if you have the guts, try scolding me one more time. Zhou Jie's expression turned cold, seemingly not joking at all. Everyone was using their gazes to persuade Dong Huangli not to anger a 16-year-old martial artist anymore. If this goes on, she will definitely get injured. Everyone didn't want to see such an adorable child get injured, but they didn't dare to say anything good about Dong Huangli. Dong Huangli used her sweet voice and shouted out once again, "You are just a salted fish. Even if you turn over a new leaf, you will still be a salted fish." Like father, like daughter, Dong Huangli had learned her father's catchphrase very clearly and logically. Hearing what Dong Huangli said, everyone sucked in a mouthful of cold air. Little ancestor, once you say those words, no one will be able to save you. Meanwhile, Zhou Jie's body emitted out a strong pressure, and with a gloomy expression he immediately disappeared from where he was standing. In a blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Dong Huangli, then lowered his head and looked at the little girl in front of him. There was a very obvious difference between the two's height. Although Zhou Jie was only 16 years old, his height was already 1.78 centimeters, while Dong Huangli's height was only at the knee level. Even if Dong Huangli wanted to look straight into Zhou Jie's eyes, she would have to raise her head. Little wimp, do you know what you just said just now? Zhou Jie tightly clenched his fists, and a faint white light was emitting out from his fists. It seemed as if white flames were enveloping his fists. Dong Huangli didn't have a trace of fear at all, and she said with a childish voice, "Do you think that you are very powerful? You have never seen what is truly powerful, and only after you have seen what is truly powerful will you realize that you are actually nothing. In the end, a salted fish will still be a salted fish. No matter how much you evolve, you will still not be able to escape from your essence." Everyone felt that although this child's voice was very young, the feeling that this child gave off was just like that of a small adult. In fact, there was even a kind of illusion that this child's body was gradually becoming taller. Chapter 454. *CK. A 16-year-old rank 1 martial warrior actually went to bully a child. Everyone was speechless. This is simply inhumane. Seeing that Dong Huangli was about to be bullied, Zish Qingyi immediately rushed over. However, he was immediately pushed away by Zhou Jie. "Zish Qingyi, you better not meddle in other people's business. Otherwise, you will suffer." Seeing that his daughter was actually pushed down as a father, he immediately ran out of the crowd. This foolish child, why did she go and provoke him? Zish Qingyi glared at Zhou Jie angrily. "I'm telling you, if you touch Ali today, her parents will not forgive you." In actuality, Fei Bai and Zish Qingyi felt very guilty. "We promised Ali's father that we would take good care of her, but in the end, we didn't expect that we would encounter such a thing. We are truly ashamed. We don't even have the strength to fight back. If something were to happen, how are we going to explain this to Ali's parents? That's great, I will beat her to the point that even her parents won't be able to recognize her." The current Zhou Jie was extremely ferocious. Dong Huangli looked at her big brother and big sister who were in pain, then looked at Zhou Jie who was in front of her. At first, she thought that he was pitiful, and she even stretched out her hand to help him up. Dong Huangli felt deeply humiliated by her actions. This kind of person shouldn't be pitiful. Little fellow, today, I will teach you a lesson in place of your parents. After speaking, Zhou Jie raised his hand, seemingly like he was going to give Dong Huangli a big slap. Everyone present couldn't bear to see this scene and turned their faces away. This is too much of a bully. Right now, Dong Huangli had lost her innocence and said gravely, "No one can replace my daddy and mommy." Dong Huangli lightly tapped onto Zhou Jie's chest with her meaty palm, then lightly slapped onto Zhou Jie's chest. However, Dong Huangli's action was extremely fast, to the point that Zhou Jie didn't even notice that Dong Huangli had moved. Dong Huangli's expression was still sinister, and her palm was still raised up. There wasn't the slap that Zhou Jie expected. Instead, when Zhou Jie's slap landed on the air, he lost his balance and fell onto the ground. Everyone was stupefied. Zhou Jie is a rank 1 martial warrior. How is it possible for him to fall onto the ground? Zhou Yutang was stupefied. Xihua was also stupefied. Xihua was stupefied as well. Zhou Jie, who had fallen to the ground, widened his eyes. How was this possible? The child was right in front of him. Why didn't he hit him? Instead, he tripped. It was fine if he didn't get hit, but how could he have fallen? This result made Zhou Jie even angrier. This was the first time he had fought as a first-rank warrior, and it had ended with a fall. How could this be? Zhou Jie suddenly stood up, and while looking at Dong Huangli, his expression became even more sinister and terrifying. Without saying anything, Zhou Jie actually punched towards Dong Huangli. Everyone cried out in alarm. However, Dong Huangli looked faintly at Zhou Jie, then stretched out her small index finger and pointed it onto her fist. The scene froze at this moment. How was that possible? A child actually used his fingers to block the fist of a first-grade martial artist. This was unimaginable and unprecedented. Everyone was stunned, even the robot. You! How is this possible? Zhou Jie said while looking at the short and small Dong Huangli. At this moment, he is even doubting whether his strength is fake or not. Dong Huangli said angrily, "Ali already told you. There is always someone better out there. You're just a small warrior. Do you really think you're very powerful? My papa can kill you with a single breath." That's impossible. Zhou Jie opened his big eyes and stared fixedly at Dong Huangli as he retreated. Why is this child able to block my fist with his fingers? I'm a first-grade martial artist. Suddenly, a scorching feeling came from his chest. The spiritual energy within his body is actually uncontrollably flowing chaotically. What is going on? Zhou Jie suddenly knelt onto the ground with both of his hands supporting himself on the ground. He seemed to be in a lot of pain. His originally sinister face became even more distorted, and his entire body became completely red. Zhou Yutang hurriedly walked over to his son's side and checked on his son's condition. Immediately, his expression sunk. The spiritual energy within his son's body is actually uncontrollably flowing chaotically. Xihua tightly wrinkled his brows, then said to Lu Qing, "Go and take a look at his situation." Shi Sihan sneered. Retribution. Retribution. Serves him right. Everyone was paying attention to the changes that were happening to Zhou Jie. Is this the prelude to another breakthrough? I heard that every time a breakthrough happens, it would be very painful. Lu Qing was a lot more powerful than Zhou Yutang. In an instant, she discovered the source of the problem, and her expression immediately changed. The spiritual energy within Zhou Jie's body was indeed uncontrollably flowing chaotically. However, this was not an ordinary kind of uncontrollably flowing chaotically. This also meant that Zhou Jie has been crippled. How is this possible? How can a first-grade martial artist be crippled so easily? Unless the person is a martial master-level expert. Lu Qing immediately tore open Zhou Jie's clothes, and a small handprint could be seen on Zhou Jie's chest. Then she looked towards Dong Huangli. I didn't even see when the handprint was placed on my chest. Or could it be that this child is already so terrifying that I didn't even notice it? Lord Martial Artist, what happened to my son? Zhou Yutong had a bad premonition. Lu Qing shook her head, then walked back to Xihua's side and told Xihua about the situation. After listening to Lu Qing's report, Xihua shook his head. What a disappointment. Everyone saw the expressions on these people's faces. This Zhou Jie isn't breaking through, there is another possibility. Some of the youngsters immediately revealed a smile on their faces. Great. Even the heavens have opened their eyes. Father, I feel terrible. Zhou Jie grabbed his father's arm and begged for help like a child. He didn't have the courage he had just now. Zhou Yutong's expression remained calm. Zhou Jie turned his head around and looked towards Dong Huangli, who was not far away. What did you do to me? Did he poison me? I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. Zhou Jie was finally unable to suppress himself anymore, and a mouthful of blood sprayed out from his mouth. A powerful spiritual energy erupted out from his body, and the spiritual energy soared straight into the sky. Different from before, a few minutes ago, the spiritual energy descended from the sky, but right now, the spiritual energy was indeed coming out from his body, just like returning the spiritual energy back to the sky. Ah! Zhou Jie's unwilling roars could be heard. After quite a while, everything returned back to normal. Zhou Jie had only vomited out a mouthful of blood, and it wasn't a big deal. However, right now, he felt that he would rather be dead than alive. My strength, where did my strength go? Gradually, Zhou Ye began to turn crazy as he looked at his own hands in disbelief. It's you! It's you! Zhou Jie, who was in a state of madness, suddenly stood up, then ran towards Dong Huangli at the speed of a normal person. Right now, Fei Bai and Zish Qingyi are the heavens. Zish Qingyi directly slapped Zhou Jie away. How could Zhou Yutong endure this? Surround him. Chapter 455. Zhou Yutong, what do you think you're doing? As Zish Qingyi's father, Zi Che asked angrily. Your son was a warrior earlier, and everyone tolerated it. But now your son is nothing. Do you think everyone can stand it? No wonder Zhou Jie was so arrogant. He must have inherited it. Zhou Yutong, you've gone too far. We're all part of the royal family, and you actually sent troops. Some of the big shots in the crowd began to speak. Your son was very arrogant just now, very arrogant. But now your son is worse than a dog. What other capital do you have? Tucking one's tail between one's legs was the hard truth. Zhou Yutong, your son is no longer a warrior. Where does your confidence come from? How shameless! This person's words were very straightforward. Just now, your son was boasting shamelessly and didn't put anyone in his eyes. Do you think anyone would help you? He was thinking too much. Zhou Yutong, I'll report to the higher-ups tomorrow to remove your Zhou clan's name. My royal family doesn't need someone like you. The one who spoke seemed to be quite powerful. Zhou Yutong's face alternated between white and green. When his son had just risen, those people didn't dare to say or do anything. Now that his son was in trouble, they instantly turned their backs on him. Zhou Jie struggled to get up. He was unwilling to accept this reality. He pointed at the crowd and shouted, I'm a warrior. You can't do this. Believe it or not, I can destroy all of you in minutes. At this moment, Gao Can laughed out loud and said, Zhou Jie, you have to understand the situation. You are no longer a warrior. You are nothing. You are still the same trash from before. That despicable person. Bullshit, I'm still a warrior. I will still be a martial king in the future, all of you better remember this. I, Zhou Jie, will become a martial king in the near future. When that time comes, I will make you suffer. Zhou Jie roared hoarsely. How could they accept such a sudden change? A few minutes ago, he was still in control of the situation. Everyone looked at him with fear, afraid of offending the future martial king. However, a few minutes later, everything was gone. Although it had only been a few minutes, it had been an earth-shattering change to his life. In actuality, Dong Huangli was also very smart right now. This meant that Yi Hua's teachings were on point. It was easy to kill, but it was very difficult to make others despair. Back then, when Yi Hua besieged Heaven's Mansion, Yi Hua had taught Yi Hua that he must first give others hope, then destroy his own hope, and from there, reach a state of deep despair. That kind of despair was even more painful than instant death. Right now, looking at Zhou Jie who was shouting in despair, the corner of Dong Huang Li's mouth curved up slightly. What Daddy said is right, this kind of person should be made to feel despair. As long as I cripple him, the people that he offended will once again feel disdain towards him, just like right now, everyone has the right to punish him. Don't look at how young Dong Huang Li is. In actuality, she knows a lot, and she is also very smart. Crippling Dong Huang Li and killing Dong Huang Li are two different outcomes. Although killing Dong Huang Li feels great, Dong Huang Li would become a little devil. Dong Huang Li is an obedient child, and she has never killed anyone. As such, the former were more intelligent. He did not even need to make a move. Their saliva could drown Zhou Jie to death. They were too hateful and too arrogant. The people of the Zhou clan were very flustered. They all looked at their clan leader. Zhou Yutong had no choice but to seek help from his in-laws, hoping that they would put in a good word for his sake. Brother Shi I. Before Zhou Yutong could finish his words, Shi Hua said faintly, "It's getting late, I will be heading back first. As for the marriage, I think that they are indeed not suitable for each other, so let's just forget about it." Zhou Yutong froze on the spot. The world is so cold. Just now, if not for Zhou Jie possessing the strength of a warrior, how could Shi Hua possibly lower his head and even press his daughter onto the ground to apologize? Also, just now, this little bastard didn't even give me any face at all, so why should I give you any face? Shi Sihan laughed out loud, then pointed at Zhou Jie who was on the ground and said, "Zhou Jie, if you kneel down and kowtow in front of me right now, I will take you in as my toy." Shi Sihan, I will still say the same thing, you will regret it. Life is full of ups and downs, don't bully a young man because he is poor. When Zhou Jie said this, the whole place was silent. Dong Huang Li said, "This is really the third time." In an instant, everyone burst into laughter. "Zhou Jie, you actually have the face to say such words? You are simply arrogant to the extreme. If it was me, I would have dug a hole in the ground and escaped." Hearing everyone's ridicule, Zhou Jie seemed to have lost a lot of his strength. He sat powerlessly on the ground, and the domineering aura he had a moment ago was nowhere to be seen. If Zhou Jie didn't go and provoke Dong Huang Li just now, Dong Huang Li wouldn't have looked for trouble and would have just stood at the side and watched how you act cool. But you don't want to live anymore, you insist on seeking death. If Yi Hua and Dong Huang Baiji were here, how could they allow their daughter to suffer even the slightest bit of grievance? After all, little Ali was Yi Hua and Dong Huang Baiji's flesh and blood. Zhou Jie, I didn't expect that your talent in making jokes is quite good. In the future, if you don't have any money, you can go and become a clown. Especially your catchphrase, it really makes people laugh. After finished speaking, Shi Sihan left together with her father. Looking at the leaving spaceship, Zhou Jie shouted out loudly, "Shi Sihan, you will regret this. When I rise to power again, I will slowly torture you." Dong Huang Li reminded, "You won't be able to rise to power again, because your spirit root has already been crippled by me." Spirit root has been crippled. Zhou Jie felt as if he was struck by lightning, and his head was buzzing. Everyone knows what it means to have one's spirit root crippled. From now on, I will just be an ordinary person. When the youngsters heard that Zhou Jie's spirit root had been crippled, they immediately felt relieved. Not only the youngsters, even some of the elders felt relieved when they heard that Zhou Jie's spirit root had disappeared. They were a bit worried that Zhou Jie would awaken his spirit root again. If that really happens, I will have to kneel down and lick Zhou Jie's spirit root. But from the looks of it now, there is no need for that anymore. It's good that my spirit root has been crippled. It's good that my spirit root has been crippled. From this, it could be seen that Zhou Jie's position in everyone's heart was no different than a street rat. But why did you do this to me? Zhou Jie questioned Dong Huang Li. Dong Huang Li was very angry, and yet, she still has the face to ask Dong Huang Li why. Because you are truly very hateful. Furthermore, you are the worst person that I have ever seen when it comes to acting cool. Even that idiot crown prince is much better than you. At the very least, he is still able to act cool with his brain, while you are indeed brainless. Furthermore, you even bully children, you are truly shameless. Dong Huangli's words caused Zhou Jie to feel very uncomfortable. Chapter 456. Once again, no one made a sound. They had also expressed their stance. They did not want to get involved in this mess. Who knew what would happen next? To put it bluntly, it was all for the sake of benefits. They would not do anything that did not benefit them. However, they seemed to have forgotten a problem. At this moment, Zish Qingyi said in a deep voice, "Zhou Jie, I think you're crazy. You're out of your mind. Have you forgotten who crippled you?" Previously, Zhou Jie had the strength of a first-grade martial warrior. For Dong Huangli to be able to cripple him without anyone noticing, it could be seen just how frightening her strength was. Zhou Jie was able to suppress these people as a warrior, let alone Ali. The crowd began to make noises. They all realized that they had to curry favor with this little girl. This was the true future star. "Zhou Yutong, I dare you to touch a child today. If you dare to touch a child, we will definitely surround and annihilate you." That's right. He's such a big man, yet he's bullying a child. Shameless. The father and son of the Zhou family were on the verge of collapse. Who was the one bullying who now? It's fine if you don't help the weak, but you even speak up for the murderer. Zhou Yutong said in a deep voice, "Don't forget that she crippled my son." Fei Bai said in a low voice, "That's your son's fault. Who asked him to provoke Ali? Should Ali be bullied by you?" Gao Kan, who was in the crowd, shouted, "That's right, is your son the only one allowed to bully others? Who do you think you are? This is a world where the strong are respected. They have only crippled your son and not killed him, which is already giving you a lot of face." The crowd immediately echoed in agreement. Dong Huangli let out a breath. These people sure know how to take advantage of the situation. If Dong Huangli was just an ordinary child, she would definitely be bullied to death. "Enough!" Zhou Jie shouted angrily as he slowly stood up. Following Zhou Jie's angry roar, everyone quietened down. They had no idea what this person was going to do. Zhou Jie suddenly picked up a small knife and placed it on his neck. "Don't you want me dead? Then I'll die in front of you." No one had expected Zhou Jie to do such a thing, threatening to kill himself. But who are you threatening with death? Are you kidding me? Was he trying to gain everyone's sympathy? "Zhou Jie, if you dare commit suicide today, I'll kowtow to you every time I see you in the future," Gao Kan said loudly. His words were echoed by the younger generation. But here came the problem. He was already dead. How could they meet? This hypothesis doesn't seem to be valid. However, it seemed like no one tried to persuade Zhou Jie. They sighed endlessly. It was really a failure to be a human being to this extent. "Alright, you guys are great. I, Zhou Jie, will keep my life for now. I will slowly settle the score with you in the future." After saying that, Zhou Jie tossed away the knife in his hand as if he had accepted the fact. This action really made people speechless. What happened to suicide? He went back on his words. Fei Bai chuckled. "You're still as unlikable as ever." Zish Qingyi nodded. If he had just committed suicide, he would have sighed. Who knew that it was just an act? Zhou Jie cupped his hands at his father and said, "Father, don't worry. I won't let you down. Even if I lose my spiritual root, I still have a way. I'll cultivate in seclusion now." Zhou Yutong let out a deep sigh. There are too many unforeseen events that happened tonight, and this old heart of his is a bit unable to take it anymore. Following Zhou Jie's departure, Dong Huangli didn't say anything. After all, I have to give others hope. Because by doing so, despair will seem even more despair. After he finished cultivating in seclusion, he went to look for Zhou Yutong, only to find out that Zhou Yutong was still the same as before. "Sigh, I miss Daddy and Mommy. The outside world is so complicated. Ali is still a child, and I only know how to act coquettishly to Daddy and kiss Mommy. I don't want this kind of life. Big brother Fei, big sister Qingyi, Ali wants to go back?" Dong Huangli mumbled. Dong Huangli really wanted to jump into her daddy's embrace and sleep. Zish Qingyi carried Dong Huangli and said with a slight smile, "All right, big sister will send you home." Zish Qingyi's father gave his daughter a look, seemingly wanting his daughter to properly accompany this child and build a good relationship with him. Towards her father's look, Zish Qingyi was naturally aware of it. However, she didn't want that to happen. Soon after, she left Zhou family with Fei Bai. A small interlude ended just like that. However, if Dong Huangli wants to become as pretentious as her father, she would have to practice a lot more. After all, it wasn't something that could be achieved in a short period of time. On the other side, Yihua brought along his 2 wives and began to entertain himself. Of course, this was something that happened an hour ago. Shi Tingting respectfully led the way at the front, while Yihua carried his 2 wives and walked at the back. At this moment, they had already arrived at the bar's passageway. This bar was very high-tech, and from time to time, it would change its scenery. Snow, ocean, outer space. However, to the locals, this wasn't a strange sight at all. Seeing that the Empress was a bit worried, Yihua asked faintly, "What's wrong? Are you still worried about Ali?" I'm still worried," Donghuang Baiji mumbled. Yihua was also able to understand Donghuang Baiji's feelings. As a mother, she would naturally be like this. "Don't worry, isn't Ali very powerful right now? Last time, she was even able to swing that red giant around." Donghuang Baiji immediately went into a daze, then asked towards Yihua, "How did you know about Ali being in Voidless Realm?" "Yihua, that crown prince came that day. You couldn't have come as well, right?" Qinya asked. I think so," Yihua said hesitantly. "Having such a smart wife is also quite troublesome. If I don't pay attention, I will be exposed." Qinya and Donghuang Baiji could be seen pinching Yihua's face with a fierce look on their faces. "All right, only the 2 of you would dare to pinch my face. That day, weren't you very happy watching us being bullied?" Qinya pouted her mouth and had a wronged look on her face. Yihua laughed lightly. "Qinya, so it turns out that I only found out about my image in your hearts that day. To be honest, I am getting goosebumps all over my body." The 2 wives rolled their eyes and pinched their husbands. This man is simply a scoundrel. Seeing that his wives are being bullied, he is even laughing at the side. "Actually, Ali was the one who secretly informed me that day. Weren't we quarreling with each other? Thus, I didn't show up. However, I believe in your strength, so I didn't show up." Donghuang Baiji snorted, "You just don't love us anymore." The Empress's coquettish behavior made Yihua unable to bear it anymore. He lowered his head and kissed her. Shi Tingting lowered her head and walked. The relationship between Sir and Madame Shure is good. To think that they would kiss each other even while walking. "Yihua," Qinya shouted out. Chapter 457. Although I didn't appear that day, that crown prince dared to be so disrespectful to you. I have already avenged this enmity, you all don't have to worry. Yihua put away his smile and said coldly, "Those who dare to bully my women can only be compensated with death. Their souls will be tormented in hell." Qinya intimately leaned on her husband's side and asked curiously, "How did you help us take revenge?" "Kill all of them," Yihua said coldly, then looked at his wife. "Isn't she very touched?" Hearing that, Qinya and Donghuang Baiji went into a daze. "Yihua, even if you don't smoke now, you still like to act cool." Qinya charmingly rolled her eyes at her husband. Donghuang Baiji also said with a smile, "That's right, our Yihua is getting better and better at boasting. It's true. I never lie." Yihua appeared to be very serious. "They actually don't believe me, and they actually doubt my strength. Seems like when I return home tonight, I have to let them know of my strength." Upon hearing what Yihua said, Qinya and Donghuang Baiji laughed even louder. In the past, he had said that he would only touch a woman once. Look at him now. Donghuang Baiji and Qinya would definitely talk about this for the rest of their lives. However, Donghuang Baiji was glad that Yihua was lying. Qinya said coquettishly, "You still dare to say that you're not lying? Didn't we get swindled by you? I even gave birth to your children. That's because I love you." Facing against Yihua's sweet words and honeyed words, Qinya and Donghuang Baiji's hearts were truly filled with sweetness. They tightly snuggled up to their husband's side and expressed their love for him. Yihua also enjoyed this moment very much. Lightly hugging onto the two of them, Yihua kissed onto his beloved wife's forehead. Yo, isn't this Tingting? Hello, sir, madam. Feng Lan, whom he had seen in the afternoon, suddenly appeared. She walked over with a smile, and beside her was a tall and strong man. She changed men really quickly. However, Yihua realized that this man was different. At least he had a little bit of strength, and judging from Feng Lulan's intentions, it seemed like she was trying to curry favor with him. Feng Lan took the initiative to introduce. This is Sven Xian from the main city. He's a second-grade warrior. Shi Tingting finally understood. She had brought a man to show off. As for that gentleman, when he saw Qingya and Donghuang Baiji, he went into a daze. I didn't expect that there would be such beautiful women in a small city like this. He had never seen such a beauty even in the imperial capital. But this man actually had one in each hand. What a waste of a beauty! Hello, I am from the main city's aristocratic faction, Sven Xian. After finished speaking, he stretched out his hand towards Qingya and Donghuang Baiji. If he was able to touch their hands, it would be a very comfortable thing. However, it was a pity that Qingya and Donghuang Baiji did not have the slightest desire to stretch out their hands. Beauties really have character. It seems that tonight will not be too boring. Sir, I have a game over there. Do you want to participate? You'll be very happy. Si Wenxian sent out an invitation. All right. Yihua immediately agreed. Speaking of which, he often acted tough, but he rarely did it in front of his wives. Today, he had to show them that he was not only the jealous king of the cultivation world, but also the supreme king of acting tough. Tonight, he was going to shock them and let them know how deep his love was. To be precise, the more he acted, the more he loved them. Seems like I have a goal tonight, which is to move them and make them take the initiative to send me a bed invitation tonight. Shi Tingting, who was at the side, said softly, Sir, they don't come with good intentions. There are many people that came from the main city, and they are also very arrogant. Yihua nodded his head. I hope that they will be arrogant. If not, how would I have an excuse to cause trouble? After all, I am a law-abiding citizen, I never do bad things, and I also don't kill people. I even organized my subordinates to encircle and exterminate the monsters in Long and City. I should really be given an Outstanding Citizen Award. Everyone, please follow me. Sven Xian smiled politely, but his hazy expression betrayed him. And Shi Tingting was obviously here to show off. So what if you, Shi Tingting, tied up a martial artist? I am a rank 2 martial warrior, and furthermore, I am someone that came from the main city. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji still don't know what Yihua was trying to do. In order to satisfy her husband's desire to act cool, I will shout 666 later on and support her husband. After entering the bar, Yihua discovered the advantage of technology. It is indeed very refreshing. However, the music seems to be more or less the same, all of them are electronic sounds. Seems like music doesn't differentiate between galaxies. The hall downstairs was a place where ordinary people would play, and the rich people would open a floating private room upstairs. Walking into the luxurious floating private room, it was as if walking into the deep sea, and the people that were sitting in the private room felt as if they were sitting at the bottom of the sea. Even when you stretch out your hand and touch the creatures at the bottom of the sea, the creatures at the bottom of the sea would still react, as if it was real. This is too mystical. 3 men could be seen sitting in the private room, and the one beside them should be the so-called princess. There were also 5 bodyguards standing around them, just that, the bodyguards were not wearing mechs, and they were all just some mediocre martial artists. However, it is still enough for me to act cool in front of my wife. I hope that they won't be too terrified. I, the Supreme Overlord, am going to play something big tonight. I have to make those small shrimps back off in the face of difficulties, if not, wouldn't I be annoyed to death by them? And when the 3 people in the private room saw Yihua's appearance, when they saw Qingya and Donghuang Baiji, they were immediately captivated. Why are these 2 women so beautiful? It is hard to believe that there are such women in this world. They are so beautiful that there is no bottom line. Adding on that faintly discernible temperament, I really feel as if I have them. No wonder this Sven Xian was late. It turns out that he arranged beautiful women to come over. As for this man, I will think of a way to arrange him later. Hello, I am Dai Anren who came from the main city. I am from the aristocratic faction. Hello, I am Shui Gao who came from the main city. I am from the aristocratic faction. Hello, I am Zhao Gang who came from the main city. I am from the aristocratic faction. The three men stood up courteously and stretched out their hands towards Qingye and Donghuang Baiji. There was no other reason, just that they wanted to touch Qingye and Donghuang Baiji's hands. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji ignored them. Let them fly into a rage, then Yihua will have an excuse to act cool. After that, I will just have to look at my husband with my beautiful eyes and satisfy that vanity of Yihua's. Being Yihua's wife is truly tiring. To think that I still have to worry about things like this for him. The three of you, it's fine. The two ladies are people who already have families. Sven Xian smiled faintly. However, the two ladies will not have families later on. The man who had a big bald head was Zhao Gang, and just by looking at him, one could tell that he was a bad guy. If he was placed in a television drama, he would be a henchman, the kind that would die the moment he appeared. So it is the two madams. I am truly sorry. Zhao Gang said modestly, appearing to be very polite. Chapter 458. Have a seat. Since we are together, we are friends. Shui Gao called out, and the drinking partners beside him walked out of the private room. After all, when he saw such a beauty and then looked at the drinking partners beside him, he simply wanted to vomit. Yihua hugged onto his wife and sat at the side, quietly waiting. I wonder what's the difference between aliens and humans. What is called a beauty? They are the real beauties, beauties that I have never seen before in my entire life. Just that, being hugged by this man, I really don't feel good. Furthermore, these two beauties are actually snuggling in the man's embrace, seemingly very obedient. This is simply unbelievable. They are so outstanding, they should not be worthy of this kind of man. Shi Tingting sat at the side vigilantly, feeling that something bad is going to happen. And that Si Wenxuan also hugged Feng of Lan and sat down. The corner of his mouth carried a disdainful smile. Shui Gao, where did your subordinate Lu Qin go? Why didn't he come out with you today? Zhao Gang asked. Shui Gao spread out both of his arms and leaned on the AI sofa, then said faintly, I asked him to go to Shi family to do something. You even sent a rank 1 martial warrior out to do something. You are truly amazing. Zhao Gang laughed lightly. The meaning behind his words was, look at us, even a rank 1 martial warrior can be used. A martial warrior is just a bodyguard. Dai Anren laughed lightly. My family recently hired a martial master from the Imperial City. He is very valiant. Next time when there is a chance, I will bring him out to let you guys experience. Young Master Dai is truly amazing. This little girl admires you. Feng of Lan said sweetly, her slender hands caressing Si Wenxuan's thigh, hinting crazily. Dai Anren shook his head. The Imperial City is the place where experts gather. This place is filled with martial warriors and martial masters. Without going to the Imperial City, one would not know how big this blue blaze star is. That's right. This Long An city is also just a small place. Even a martial warrior is able to proclaim himself as a king here. This is truly a pity. Zhao Gang's words were saying, a martial warrior is nothing. You guys have not seen an existence that is even more amazing. More importantly, he was reminding the two beauties that they should look at the long term and not snuggle in the embrace of a martial warrior. That is something that has no future. With your looks, it is even enough to be the president's mistress. Who knows, you guys might even be able to climb up to a martial king, and in the future, you guys can enjoy glory, splendor and wealth. Young Master Dai, I heard your family is preparing to move to the imperial capital? Shui Gao indifferently asked. Dai Anren pursed his lips and took a sip of wine. All the clans are trying their best to get into the imperial capital, but the waters of the imperial capital are so deep. If they're not careful, their entire family might be finished. Without sufficient resources, it's really not easy to go to the imperial capital. Young Master Dai going to the imperial capital to mingle, don't forget us brothers. Si Wenxian picked up his wine cup, the latter clinking it with a smile. That's only natural. Following that, the four of them started to talk about important matters, such as who had become rich, who had broken through, how much money they had, how many houses they had demolished, and how much the stock market could fall. In any case, they were not going to buy it. What he was trying to say was, you people from small places don't understand the lives of people like us. I'm telling you to broaden your horizons. Fongelvlan, on the other hand, was mesmerized by the story. She really envied those who lived in the imperial capital. They could even walk out with pride. And even Yi Hua wanted to leave. You guys have been laying the groundwork for so long, yet you still don't do anything. I, the Supreme Overlord, will go and find someone else. Seeing that my two beloved wives are about to fall asleep, I might as well carry them to the bed to sleep. May I know how I should address Mr.? Shui Gao suddenly asked. Yi Hua immediately became spirited. You guys are finally not boasting anymore. Just call me Boss Yi. Yi Hua said indifferently. Boss Yi? The four of them were a bit stupefied. We are young masters that came from the main city, we have noble bloodlines, our strengths are all martial warriors, and our underlings are all martial warriors. And you actually want a martial warrior to call you boss? May I ask where your courage comes from? Such an arrogant man, I will teach you a lesson later. For the sake of those two beauties, I will endure it for now. Boss Yi, are you interested in playing a few rounds? Dai Anren asked indifferently. Later on, I will beat you up into a dog, and you still call yourself Boss Yi? What are you acting for? Yi Hua asked indifferently, what are we playing? Si Wenxian laughed lightly. With a wave of his hand, a virtual console appeared. Yi Hua felt that the floating private room was moving, seems like it is going to another place. Let's bet. Sven Xian smiled. I like to gamble. I hope that you will be able to pay back the money that you owe me on time. If not, your consequences will be even worse than Xiao Yi's. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji, who were originally squinting their eyes, heard what Donghuang Baiji said. My husband is actually going to go and gamble? And when Qingya thought back to that time when she gambled, she felt that it was truly exciting. Very quickly, the hovering private room reached its destination. Suddenly, the private room became transparent, as if they were standing in the air, and beneath their feet was a large arena. A bloody battle was taking place inside. Following the bloody battle, the audience's excitement was ignited, and the entire arena seemed to be on the verge of lifting. In order to make a living, many people would take the risk to participate in the arena. If they won, they could get a large sum of money. If they lost, they would be gone. Moreover, players with a winning streak would gain popularity. They could even make it to the main city's arena in one go. How are we betting? Yi Hua asked curiously. Who do you want to bet on? Sven Xian asked with a smile. Yi Hua nodded his head. This is very simple. How big is the bet? Yi Hua continued asking. Boss Yi, you can bet however big you want. Shui Gao said with a disdainful tone. Yi Hua smelled the fragrance of Qingya's hair and said faintly, I like to bet on family property. After hearing that, Qingya really wanted to laugh. He's here again. After hearing that, the four went into a daze, and soon after, they laughed. Isn't this funny? Boss Yi sure knows how to joke. Zhao Gang laughed. People who gamble on family property are usually lunatics. Yi Hua said in a deep voice, aren't you all very rich? After saying so much just now, you all still don't dare to bet on this? This is provocation. This is provocation. How can you say no in front of a beauty? Even if you can't, you still have to do it. Boss Yi, since you said that you want to bet on family property, may I know how much family property do you have? Dai Anren questioned. This man is simply too arrogant to actually boast shamelessly in front of the main city's four big princes, and even said that you want to bet on family property. I'm just afraid that you can't afford to lose. Right now, Yi Hua definitely did not count on cheating anymore and decided to take action himself. Yi Hua took out the trashiest weapon from his storage ring and threw it onto the table. This is my family property. Looking at the broadsword that was emitting a faint green aura on the table, the four big princes were stupefied. Their eyes were opened wide, and their mouths were wide open. Shi Tingting cried out in surprise, "Mister! This is a Cosmos artifact." Chapter 459. I have so many trashy weapons, so I might as well take them out for a gamble. If I took out a slightly better weapon, their hearts might not be able to take it, but even if it was the most trashy weapon, they still seem to be extremely shocked. I like this kind of expression on their faces, it makes me very happy. However, Yihua suddenly felt a pain on his waist. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji looked at Yihua with a resentful gaze, seemingly asking why he didn't let us use such a weapon and instead hid it. Yihua hugged onto his wives. "How can you all use such a trashy weapon? It is not worthy of my women." "Shi Tingting, how much do you think this flowing lotus blade is worth?" Yihua asked. Shi Tingting was astonished, then said fearfully, "Mister, Cosmos artifacts are priceless." Right now, the four princes were still in a state of shock. This is a fucking Cosmos artifact. I have only heard of it, but I have never seen it before. Even the current Martial King doesn't have a Cosmos artifact, and it seems like only the president has such a weapon. If I were to win this Cosmos artifact, wouldn't I be able to ascend to the heavens in one go? Although this trashy weapon is nothing to Yihua, after all, it came from the hands of an overlord. No matter how trashy a weapon is, it is still a treasure to others. Just like Hong Tai, who was killed by Yihua, the reason why he collected so many ancient godly items and tools was all to forge a primordial godly item. And this flowing lotus blade was a primordial godly item. And it was the most trashy primordial godly item. Yihua let go of his wife's willow branch and looked at the four men in front of him. "I will use this blade to gamble all of your belongings." The four men inhaled a mouthful of cold air. They were completely stunned. They didn't dare to say anything, and they didn't dare to do anything. The confidence that they had a few minutes ago had long been destroyed by them. Right now, Shi Tingting really didn't know who they were. To actually take out a Cosmos artifact so easily, and to even use it to gamble. Even if the four of them took out all of their belongings, they still wouldn't be able to buy a Cosmos artifact. Mister is really crazy. The appearance of a Cosmos artifact will definitely cause a huge commotion. When the time comes, everyone will come to snatch it, and that will be troublesome. Mister is really muddle-headed. As for Feng Luan, she sat there in a daze the entire time, staring at the Universe God weapon on the table. She never thought that there would be a day when she would be so close to a Universe God weapon. "Boss Yi, let us discuss this with our family." Dai Anren said solemnly and immediately contacted his family. It was the same for the other three. Only by combining the strength of the four clans would they be able to obtain this Cosmos God artifact. Yihua waved his hand. "You can discuss whatever you want with me. In any case, I, the Supreme Overlord, will definitely win." After a long time, the four young masters of the main city had an answer. Sven Xian said in a deep voice, "Each of us will pay 50 billion gold coins. That's 200 billion gold coins in total. What do you think, Boss Yi?" Yihua didn't reply to Shi Tingting's question. Instead, he asked Shi Tingting, "Is 50 billion worth all that they should have?" Shi Tingting furrowed her brows slightly. Although it was a simple question, it was also related to when it came to choosing a side. If she chose the wrong side, then she would face terrible consequences. Should he stand on Mister's side, or should he stand on the side of the main city's four young masters? Since Mister is able to take out a Cosmos God artifact, he is definitely not simple. Since you are gambling your family's fortune, then I, Shi Tingting, can only gamble the fate of my clan. Sir, 50 billion per family is not all of their assets. The assets of each family should be around 150 billion. Shi Tingting's words caused the fourth young master to gnash his teeth fiercely. "If I succeed this time, I will definitely kill this woman." Yihua held onto the flowing lotus blade that was on the table, and immediately, a green light shone out from the blade. "You all are very dishonest. Boss Yi, we can talk things out. Right now, it is late at night, and it is a bit difficult to mobilize such a huge amount of funds." Zhao Gang explained hurriedly. Yihua didn't pay attention to Zhao Gang and asked Shi Tingting once again, "Is what he said the truth?" Shi Tingting shook her head. If I have the heart to deal with it, I will be able to finish it within 10 minutes or so. Right now, the fourth young master wished that he could eat Shi Tingting's meat, then cut it into pieces and roast the meat to eat. I will give you all 10 minutes. If you all don't want to gamble, then forget it, I will go and find someone else. Boss Yi, wait a moment, I will contact them again. Shui Gao said hurriedly. The fourth young master began contacting their families again. From the tone of their conversation, it could be heard that they were very nervous, and also very much wanted to possess the Cosmos God artifact. 10 minutes later. Boss Yi, the time is too tight. Each of us has 100 billion gold coins, and the remaining 50 billion gold coins will be transferred to us in half an hour. Sven Xian said gravely. 600 billion gold coins. Yihua felt that it should be able to be used as the traveling expenses this time. Shi Tingting, go and see if they are lying or not. Yihua said. Shi Tingting opened up the system and compared the cards on the table. Mister, there is no mistake. Let's begin then. Yihua threw the flowing lotus blade in his hand onto the table, as if he was throwing a fruit knife, causing the fourth young master's heart to ache. At the same time, the fourth young master was also curious, just what kind of person is this man, to actually casually take out a god equipment? This is truly too unbelievable. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it even if I was beaten to death. After all, the rarity of a god equipment was truly shameful. If one were to get hold of a god equipment, one would be able to dominate the entire world. However, after getting hold of the flowing lotus blade, how are we going to split the flowing lotus blade is also a problem. However, this is only the follow-up. A projection could be seen appearing in front of the few people's eyes. This projection was the contestant for the next round. Yihua took a glance at the contestants. A dwarf from the elf race, and a 3 meters tall minotaur, and the dwarf minotaur was a consecutive champion. This was a one-sided battle. As long as one's brain wasn't damaged, they would bet on the minotaur to win. Therefore, the odds of the minotaur winning was very low, while the odds of the dwarf minotaur winning was as high as 1,000. You guys choose first, I will choose the opponent that you guys are against. Yihua said faintly, then held onto his wife's waist with both of his hands and slowly caressed her waist. This is simply the enjoyment of a deity. Meanwhile, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji snuggled into their husband's embrace and quietly watched as their husband acted cool. To them, this was also a kind of enjoyment. Their husband's strength gave them an unlimited sense of security. Needless to say, after the misunderstanding was resolved, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji became even more reliant on Yihua. Yihua also referred to Lai Gu's experience, not letting the two of them have the time to think about anything else. Especially Donghuang Baiji, she felt so comfortable that she didn't even want to get out of bed. Hearing Yihua's words, the fourth young master immediately became happy. The four of them discussed for a bit, then Dai Enren said with a smile, Boss Yi, we will choose the beastman. Rodney. I will choose the elf race's Brett then. Yihua said faintly. Chapter 460. Boss Yi, since you have made your choice, then don't regret it. Zhao Gang reminded Yihua. This bet is already very obvious, we are going to win for sure. Yihua said coldly, since I said it, then it won't be fake. I am trustworthy. This sentence caused Qingya and Donghuang Baiji to stretch out their hands and pinch Yihua's waist. Do you still have trustworthy? You are a big liar. These two women pinched my waist again. In this entire universe, only you two would dare to do this. Then I wish Boss Yi good luck. See when Xian laughed lightly, appearing to be very confident. Yihua said indifferently, my good luck will always be with me, there is no need for you to worry about me. Could it be that I am so awesome? So it turns out that I have a Cosmos artifact with me. I reckon that the two beauties only followed me because they have their eyes on that Cosmos artifact. If the Cosmos artifact is gone, the two beauties will definitely look for someone else. And whoever who has a Cosmos artifact will definitely be able to obtain the hearts of the beauties. If a beauty like this were to fall into his hands, he would definitely be able to customize a super comfortable waterbed. In the arena, the host's introduction rang out. Next, Let's welcome the Tauren who has 5 consecutive victories. Rodney. Along with the host's introduction, the iron gate at the side slowly opened, and a 3 meters tall Tauren could be seen breathing heavily as he slowly walked out. The Tauren was wearing simple chainmail, and his right hand was holding onto an iron axe. The axe was stained with blood, and all of the blood belonged to his opponent. Rodney let out a beast-like howl, raising his aura to the peak. Along with the howl, the blood of the spectators also started boiling. During the day, they worked under pressure, and during the night, they began to release their natural instincts, thirsting to see a bloody battle. Look at Rodney's strong muscles, that explosive power in his arms. The iron axe in his hand is already unable to endure the thirst. Will he be able to obtain the 6th victory? Next, let's welcome the elf. Brett. The iron gate opposite of Rodney opened, and a 1 tall dwarf could be seen walking out slowly. His body was wearing a simple white cloth, and his appearance was very delicate and pretty. His big eyes were dark green in color, and his ears were very long and very pointy. He had the characteristics of the elf race, and his skin was very fair. In his hand was a wooden bow, and on his back was a quiver that had 5 arrows inserted into it. However, could the iron arrowhead really pierce through the Tauren's skin? It was obviously very difficult. The newcomer, Brett, is proficient in archery. Coupled with his petite build, his speed is definitely not bad. Although there is a huge disparity in strength, I believe that Brett will have a good result. Everyone, please wait and see. Needless to say, following the host's words, Brett's bets increased once more. After all, the odds were really attractive. If he really won, that would be awesome. The host looked at the bets and was secretly delighted. How could this shorty win? Brett bit his lips tightly, his right hand tightly grasping the bow and arrow. His eyes were a little confused, especially when he looked around at the dense crowd and the cheers in his ears. He was even more at a loss. Brett, you can't be afraid. Grandpa is still waiting for you to return. You have to use the money you won to treat Grandpa's illness. Otherwise, Grandpa would die. Once he thought of his grandfather lying on the sickbed, Brett's gaze became more resolute. If he won this battle, he would receive a reward of 1,000 gold coins, and his grandfather would be able to keep his life. He had to win. Even if he had to risk his life, he had to win. This was life. Yi Hua was sitting in the sky, gambling a few 100 billion gold coins, and some people were indeed risking their lives for the sake of 1,000 gold coins. Whether this was a misfortune or a natural phenomenon, no one could say for sure. Yi Hua, who was sitting in the floating private room, saw Brett through the big screen. That resolute gaze of Brett made Yi Hua recall his weak self in the past. Back then, those days were filled with hardship and danger. Other than training, he also had to hide from humans, hide under dirty swamps, and hide in stinky latrines. Those long days were still fresh in Yi Hua's mind. However, he also kept on telling himself that only by becoming stronger would he not be bullied by others. Only by becoming stronger would he be able to control his own fate. In Yi Hua's heart, working hard would at least give him a trace of hope. If he didn't work hard, he would be a salted fish for his entire life. Even if he managed to change his fate, he would still be a salted fish. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji looked at Brett, who was on the big screen. They couldn't bear to see Brett, but they didn't dare to say it to Yi Hua, in case Yi Hua said that they were soft-hearted again. Thus, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji buried their heads into their husband's embrace. Yi Hua thought to himself, "Little fellow, today is my gamble, you are lucky." In the arena, Brett stared fixedly at Rodney, who was 20 meters away from him. Pulling out an arrow, Brett knocked the arrow onto his bow. Facing such a huge figure, a feeling of powerlessness emerged from the bottom of his feet. Along with the sound of the battle starting, the arena burst into a clamor. "Kill him. Use your axe to chop that shorty to death. Kill, kill, kill. I want to see you tear that shorty's body apart. I want to see you drink that shorty's blood and tear him apart." Hearing those voices, Brett was at a loss. I didn't offend them at all. Why do they want me to die so much? Rodney let out another roar, then leaned his entire body forward and rushed towards Brett. Facing such a ferocious aura, Brett was scared silly, and he stood on the spot, not knowing what to do anymore. Rodney could be seen leaping high into the air and raising his axe with both hands. If Rodney were to chop down with his axe, Brett would definitely be chopped into two. Rodney could be seen leaping high into the air and raising his axe with both of his hands. If Rodney were to chop down with his axe, Brett would definitely be chopped into two halves. Meanwhile, inside the floating private room, fourth young master was so nervous that he was clenching his fists tightly. Meanwhile, Sven Xian's hand was originally placed on Feng Lovlan's thigh, and right now, he was so nervous that he was tightly pinching onto Feng Lovlan's thigh. Meanwhile, Feng Lovlan was staring fixedly at the screen and had even forgotten to shout out in pain. Shi Tingting also held her breath. Did I lose just like this? Isn't this a little too fast? That's a universe artifact, and it was gone in less than 10 seconds. Yihua appeared to be very calm, and he was very confident in Brett. I, the Supreme Overlord, will cheat? That's impossible. The Supreme Overlord have never cheated before. Although Qingya and Donghuang Baiji didn't intend to watch the battle, but they were women after all, and they didn't mean what they said. Both of them were nervously staring at the screen. Right now, Brett was staring blankly at the Minotaur who was leaping high into the air. Even the blood vessels within the Minotaur's eyes could be seen clearly. Grandfather's pale face appeared in Brett's mind. Cannot die. I must take the prize money back to treat grandfather's illness. At this crucial moment, Brett rolled to the side. There was a loud bang. The iron axe hacked onto the ground, and half of the axe's blades sank into the ground. From this, it could be seen just how strong the Minotaur was. Chapter 461. The fourth young master who was in the floating private room let out a sigh. Such a good opportunity, and I actually missed it just like that. While rolling, Brett's gaze became serious. He quickly pulled the bow and took aim. His movements were rather proficient, but what no one knew was that this was the first time that Brett held a bow. The arrow drew a beautiful straight line in the air and firmly hit its target. Rodney let out a miserable shriek. The arrow pierced through one of his eyes, and blood immediately flowed out from the arrow, covering his entire face. Brett immediately ran away. He wasn't stupid. Rodney's muscles were as tough as stone. My arrow was completely unable to cause any damage to Rodney. The most effective way to attack is to shoot Rodney's eyes. Facing the sudden counterattack, everyone was a bit stupefied. The situation in front of us isn't real. That is the powerful Tauren Rodney, the champion of 5 consecutive victories. Even a stone man was struck to death by that attack, let alone a dwarf. I definitely underestimated my enemy. I was too careless. Looking at the situation, the fourth young master was already sweating cold sweat. If I really lose, I definitely won't be able to get my money back. Rodney has a universe artifact. How am I supposed to snatch it away? Do I have to use my life to snatch it away? This damned dwarf was just standing there motionlessly just a moment ago. Why did he suddenly move and even blind the Tauren's eye? Could it be that this isn't a game of brute force, but a game of technology instead? This is too much of a scam. The organizer is clearly digging a pit for us. Seeing the little elf's counterattack, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji immediately cried out in surprise. How could they not be able to bear it anymore? The person that I chose naturally has his reasons. There is no need for me to cheat at all. I am just that confident. Brett, who was in the field, drew his bow again, aimed, and shot. What Brett needed to do right now was to blind the other eye of the Tauren. Only then would he have a chance of winning, otherwise, it would be useless. Rodney immediately let out a roar, pulled out the axe that was stuck in the ground, then turned around. The arrow pierced through Rodney's firm arm and pierced through the skin, but it didn't bleed at all. I am going to crush you. Rodney went crazy. After pulling out the arrow from his eye, he ran towards Brett without a care for his life. Brett ran away hurriedly. There was no hope for him to fight Rodney head-on. However, every step that the Tauren took was equivalent to Brett running a few steps. The axe once again fell, and Brett hurriedly dodged, but Rodney immediately lifted his foot and kicked the petite body. Brett had no other choice but to protect his chest with both hands and withstand the power of this kick. Bang! The kick landed heavily on Brett's arms. Brett's entire body flew out like a cannonball and crashed into the wall. Then he fell to the ground, motionless. The entire place was silent for a moment, then erupted into loud cheers. Rodney did not disappoint them. He killed the shorty with one kick. The fourth young master in the floating room shouted excitedly. They won. Although it was a little scary just now, it was still more daunting than dangerous. As expected of a Tauren, his combat power was extraordinary. Shi Tingting heaved a sigh of relief. Did she lose just like that? Yi Zichen took a look at the Cosmos God equipment on the table. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji didn't care about the Cosmos God equipment on the table at all. They were worriedly looking at the elves on the screen. However, in the eyes of the fourth young master, they were worried that he would lose the Cosmos God equipment. However, Yihua was not worried in the slightest. He was as steady as Mt Tai and had the posture of a big shot. No one would be able to learn this posture of Yihua, and even if they were able to learn it, they would not have that kind of pretentiousness. If it wasn't for Qingya saying that smoking was not good for the fetus, I would have smoked a mouthful of it. Boss Yi, it seems like our luck today is a bit lacking. Dai Anren smiled, indicating that he had let him win. Right now, as long as he chopped off that shorty's head, the owner of this Cosmos Divine equipment would change. Even the owner of these two beauties would change as well. Just when the fourth young master was feeling happy, a white light descended from afar. Shui Gao went into a daze for a moment, then laughed. For someone to break through in this kind of small city, it is truly a miracle. That's true, there are quite a lot of surprises tonight. Zhao Gang followed along and said. However, the white light that they were seeing right now was precisely the white light that Zhou Jie was seeing. In a while, they would be able to see another white light soaring into the sky. Within the arena, Rodney dragged his heavy iron axe and walked towards Brett while gasping for breath. Damn short, you actually destroyed my eyes, I'm going to eat you alive. Rodney let out a series of growls and swore that he would have a feast of human flesh tonight. I heard that the flesh of elves is exceptionally sweet. When the spectators saw Rodney walking towards Brett, their eyes were filled with excitement. They really wanted to see the scene of the shorty being torn apart piece by piece. Rodney raised his iron axe and said angrily, I am going to chop you into pieces and eat you alive. Just when everyone thought that the outcome of the battle was already set, Brett, who was not moving at all, suddenly grabbed onto the sand on the ground and threw it towards Rodney's face. Rodney, who was holding onto his axe with both hands, was unable to block in time, and the sand immediately fell into his eyes. Little bastard. I am going to chop you to death. Rodney did not bother to wipe his eyes and directly chopped down onto Brett. Brett hurriedly dodged, and blood was already flowing out from the corner of Brett's mouth. That chop just now was really painful, and right now, his entire body was still hurting. Taking advantage of the fact that Rodney was unable to see clearly, Brett hurriedly ran away. Rodney, who was blinded, randomly chopped at Brett as he roared and cursed. Brett stood 10 meters away and drew his bow. His eyes were filled with determination. I must win. By the accuracy of an arrow at close range was greatly increased. In addition, Rodney was flustered and exasperated. He did not even protect his other eye properly, and was shot again. Ah! Rodney, who was completely blinded, let out a miserable roar, and the iron axe in his hands fell to the ground. Seeing this, Brett immediately ran over and grabbed the iron axe with both hands. He used all his strength to drag Rodney away, not letting him pick up the iron axe again. When Rodney reacted and went to pick up the iron axe, he discovered that it was gone. Damn short, if you have the ability, fight me one-on-one. I am going to trample you to death. The crazed Rodney ran around in fear, using his own head to hit the ground. It was obvious that he had lost his mind. Brett stood in the middle and watched as Rodney ran away in fear. A few minutes later, Rodney no longer had any strength left. He panted heavily, and the blood flowing out of his eyes was shocking. Little shorty, chop him to death. Yes, chop off his head. The entire arena was instantly filled with cheers. Killing a little shorty was indeed satisfying, but seeing the champion of 5 consecutive victories die seemed to be even more satisfying. Rodney clearly heard the cheers of the audience, and he roared angrily, "I will not lose. I will kill that little shorty." Chapter 462. Brett's height was about the same as the iron axe, and it was very difficult for him to pick up the axe. However, when Brett thought of his grandfather, his small body immediately became filled with power. Carrying the iron axe, Brett spun the axe backwards and aimed at Rodney's leg. The pain from Rodney's leg was transmitted into his brain, and his body immediately fell onto the ground with blood flowing out from his knee. Meanwhile, Brett once again carried the iron axe and stood beside Rodney. Everyone held their breath. This is the counterattack from the elf shorty. He used his wisdom to win the match. In actuality, Brett didn't want to kill Rodney, but the rules are dead. If I don't kill Rodney, I won't be able to get any money, and my grandfather will lose his life. Thinking up to here, Brett's heart became firm, and he tightly held onto the iron axe. Ah! Following Brett's shout, the iron axe drew an arc in the air and accurately chopped onto Rodney's neck. Looking at the Minotaur who lost his life in front of him, Brett's entire body became powerless as he sat on the ground and gasped for breath. The pain from his entire body came back again. The audience became quiet for a moment, then immediately burst into cheers. Under the situation where there was a huge disparity in strength, the elf shorty actually completed a perfect counterattack, causing everyone to exclaim in admiration. The MC came back to his senses and announced the result of the match. Congratulations to Brett from the elf race for winning the match. This is a battle of wits, strength isn't absolute, brains are king. The entire arena seemed as if it was going to be turned upside down. Everyone was shouting, and even those who lost money felt that it was worth it. This match looked very satisfying. However, not everyone was willing to lose. For example, the 4 young masters who were currently in the floating private room were currently staring blankly at the screen, while Qinya and Donghuang Baiji had already stood up and celebrated. Although this was just an ordinary match, the elf shorty displayed astonishing talent and defeated his opponent under the situation where there was a huge disparity in strength. Yihua smiled lightly. I, the Supreme Overlord, have never been wrong in judging people, to the point where I won without cheating. Shi Tingting, keep the money, Yihua said faintly. Shi Tingting, who was in a daze, didn't even react to what Yihua said. Only when Yihua reminded her did she realize that she had to keep all of the money. A total of 400 billion gold coins, and my family's total wealth is only 5 billion gold coins. It can be seen how rich the people in the main city are. The 4 young masters were completely dumbfounded. That elf shorty clearly fell to the ground. Why is he still standing up? But this is impossible. In the distance, another ray of white light shot into the sky from the ground, but the 4th young master was not in the mood to look at it. Boss Yi, Sven Xian said gravely. Yihua picked up the flowing lotus blade that was on the table and said faintly, "What happened?" The 4 young masters didn't Yihua and said, "Yihua, Yi each of you, Yi I of you, you I, Yi I, you each." After finished speaking, Yihua kept the knife. Earning money is still rather easy. I wonder what is the exchange rate of gold coins to RMB. Yi. High up. Yi Qing, he thought. The 4 young masters had a gloomy face. I want to snatch the money, but I'm afraid of other people's universe artifact. But I have already lost the money, what should I do? This is 100 billion gold coins. If I don't get this money back, my family will instantly fall and become a third-rate family in the main city. The 4 young masters huddled together and discussed for a while, and they seemed to have reached a consensus. Boss Yi, can you give us another chance? Dai Anren asked gravely. Upon hearing that, Shi Tingting hurriedly persuaded, "Mister, don't agree to their request, there is definitely a conspiracy." Right now, the 4 young masters wished that they could drink Shi Tingting's blood and gnaw on her bones. Yihua didn't care about it. All of the conspiracies and schemes are nothing in my eyes. Speak. Zhao Gang said gravely, "Fight with us. but you are not allowed to use the universe artifact. If we win, give us the money and the blade. If we lose, give us another 100 billion gold coins. Upon hearing that, Shi Tingting shouted shamelessly, "Mister, don't listen to them, they are not able to take out that much money. Furthermore, their request is very excessive." Yi Hua raised his hand and signaled Shi Tingting to be quiet. Shi Tingting didn't understand. "Mister, they are obviously digging a pit for you." Yi Hua didn't answer. Instead, he looked towards his two wives. "Qinya, Baiji, do you want to see your husband fight?" Qinya and Donghuang Baiji rolled their eyes at their husband. "You obviously want to go, yet you still came to ask us. Are you trying to make us the scapegoat?" "However, since my husband asked, I have to answer. We want to see whatever you do." This answer made Yi Hua very satisfied. As expected of my women, they are becoming more and more sensible. Yi Hua looked at the four young masters coldly. "All right. I am happy today. I agree to your request, but we have to fight in the arena below." The four young masters immediately stiffened. "If we fight in the arena, we won't stop until one of us dies. I have to discuss this." "Mr. Yi, wait a moment." The four young masters stood at the side and discussed. Zhao Gang said faintly, "That Boss Yi is just a martial artist, we still have a chance." Shui Gaoqiao nodded. "That's right, after all, it is four of us against one. There is no need to be afraid of anything." "That's right, as long as he doesn't use a universe artifact, we will be able to win." Si Wenxian said gravely. "As long as he dies, everything will belong to us. Who knows, there might be even better things." Dai Anren sneered. "I want both women and treasures." Feng Lovlan could be seen suddenly walking over and saying lightly, "Don't you all feel that it is strange? He is just a martial artist. Why would he accept the challenge of four martial artists? I feel that it is better for you all to be careful." Si Wenxian gave Feng Lovlan a backhand slap and sent her flying. "Stinky woman. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be in such a situation. Idiot woman." Yi Hua and the others looked on silently. Why make things difficult for a woman? And that Feng Lovlan directly fainted from the slap. The four young masters of the main city no longer have a way out. If we go back like this, it will be hard for us to report to our family, and we might even be chased out of the family. All right, we agree to it. The four of us will fight against you. You cannot use a universe artifact. Zhao Gang warned again. Yi Hua slowly stood up. All right. Shi Tingting helplessly contacted the organizer, and when the organizer heard that it would be a martial artist against a martial artist, they immediately stopped the competition. This was a big deal. When they found out that it would be 4 against 1, they were completely stunned. Originally, they thought that it would be 1 martial artist against 4 martial artists, but they didn't expect that it would be 1 martial artist against 4 martial artists. Chapter 463. The fourth young master had already left to make preparations. Yi Hua smiled towards his wives. "If I die, what will you two do?" "Accompany you." Qinya caressed Yi Hua's cheeks and said, "Accompany you." Donghuang Baiji hugged onto Yi Hua and expressed her answer. This caused Yi Hua to smile slightly. Soon after, he hugged onto his wives and said softly, "If I really die one day, don't do anything stupid and take good care of the children." The faces of the two wives sunk. Originally, we thought that Yi Hua was just joking, but we didn't expect that he would actually say such words. "Yi Hua, if you say such things again in the future, we will ignore you," Qinya said angrily. Yi Hua actually said that he was going to die. "Jinx?" Donghuang Baiji couldn't help but stretch out her hand and slap onto Yi Hua's lips. She immediately recalled that time when Yi Hua was injured and almost thought that he died. A trace of a smile appeared on the corner of Yi Hua's mouth. "I was just joking with you too. The person who is able to kill me has yet to be born." Qinya and Donghuang Baiji gave Yi Hua, "This is more like it" expression. "Shi Tingting, go and check where that elf from just now lives." Yi Hua wanted to go and meet that Brett, a very interesting elf girl. Shi Tingting was a bit surprised, but she still nodded her head and agreed. She was curious why her husband wanted to look for that child. I reckon that he wants to thank me. After all, I helped her husband win so much money. However, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji didn't think so. They understood their husband very well now, and they knew that he definitely wasn't just going to thank him for something else. Could it be that he has taken a fancy to that elf? Wants to take her in as his disciple? That shouldn't be possible. Yihua isn't suited to be a master. Right now, in the arena, the spectators couldn't wait any longer. It has already been half an hour. Why hasn't the next match started yet? Hurry up and start. I have already finished sucking my chicken rolls. Damn it, why isn't it starting yet? We want to watch beauties fight. The organizer was currently having an intense discussion, and that was the problem of the opening ratio. Just now, the little shorty's performance helped them earn quite a lot of money, and this match was 4 against 1. This was completely a one-sided situation. Even the smartest person wouldn't be able to turn the tables around. The result came out very quickly. The one who bet on 4th young master had the lowest odds in the world, and the one who bet on Yihua had the highest odds of 1,000. However, when such a ratio appeared, all the audience and the people in front of the screen were dumbfounded. What surprised them was not the ratio, but the people on both sides. The 4 young masters of the main city against a man. How was this possible? They were the 4 young masters of the main city. They had the strength of warriors. However, watching them fight was a kind of enjoyment. The scene immediately caused an uproar. 4 samurai against 1 martial artist. It was obviously a one-sided battle. This was not like the previous battle where they were all ordinary people. The disparity in strength and numbers was too great. Everyone felt that the person called Yihua didn't have any chance of winning, and this kind of ratio could be casually bought. It was a sure win. Moreover, this kind of news had spread like wildfire. It seemed that the 4 young masters of main cities were quite famous. All of the surrounding cities were paying attention to this competition, and even the tycoons of main cities were paying attention to it. They were all prepared to win some money. In a small house somewhere, a young man and a young woman were also watching the match. Wife, this battle will definitely be 4th young master's victory. Let's bet everything we have. We will definitely be able to earn a small sum of money. And I also feel that 4th young master will definitely win. This is practically giving away money. We will bet everything. The money used to buy a car, the money used to book a hotel, the money used for the wedding, we will bet everything on it. Alright, after we win the money, we will go to another planet for our honeymoon. Hubby is the best. This kind of thing happened in various places. Although the payout ratio was indeed low, if one invested a large sum of money, one would still be able to win quite a bit of money. This was a match that would definitely be won. When the organizers saw the money that was rolling in, they were all dumbfounded. They didn't expect that the matter would develop so quickly. A lot of the money came from the surrounding cities, and even the people from the imperial city were betting. However, it was impossible to close the bet. It was not time yet, and these were all controlled by the rules. Furthermore, this was all an official match. Would the officials be afraid that they would not be able to afford it? From 10 billion to 100 billion, and then to 1 trillion. This was the first time that they had seen this kind of match. Even if it was 0.001, it would still not be a small sum of money. Seems like the payout ratio is still too high. Manager. Not good. Just now an account bet 400 billion on Yihua. An employee suddenly ran over and shouted, "What? 400 billion?" The manager was immediately dumbfounded. 400 billion. If Yihua were to make a comeback like just now, how much money would he lose if that happened? 400 billion? When 400 billion appeared under Yihua's profile picture, a lot of people were astonished. Which tycoon is playing like this? He simply doesn't take money seriously at all. This is too savage. However, for such a big federation, it was still possible for them to afford it. The only problem was whether or not they wanted to pay. As for who was the one who bet so much money, it was naturally Qingya and Donghuang Baiji. Our husband's appearance fee should be more or less enough, right? Donghuang Baiji teased while holding onto a glass of fruit wine. Qingya shook her head. This idea was suggested by Baiji, This idea is really as bad as Yihua. The two of you are simply trying to snatch away all of other people's money. Qingye said with a slight smile. Donghuang Baiji snorted. Who asked them to bet such a high ratio on Yihua? Let them reap what they sowed. What if they don't return the money? Let's go and check the accounts. Donghuang Baiji's eyebrows twitched mischievously. Qingye felt that this idea wasn't bad and revealed out a mischievous smile. Yihua has successfully led his two wives astray. Shi Tingting, who was sitting at the back, was very stupefied when she heard the conversation between the madams. The money that I just won is going to be used to gamble again. Why does your family like to gamble so much? After half an hour of betting, the bets were finally closed. The total amount of money that the four young masters had bet on Yihua had reached 2,312. 1 billion, while Yihua's side only had 400 billion. The difference between the two's bets could be said to be very big. The MC's hand that was holding onto the microphone was trembling. If I were to advertise this battle, I reckon that it would not only be this amount of money, it would be even more. Everyone, sorry for the long wait. The next battle will be the highlight of tonight's show. Even if I don't say it, everyone knows who they are. Sven Xian from the main city. Dianren. Zhao Gang. High water. The iron gate below slowly rose, and the fourth young master walked out from the gate. His expression wasn't very relaxed. Instead, it was very serious. This battle can only be won, it cannot be lost. Look at the heroic bearing of the main city's four young masters. That handsome face of theirs is so attractive. However, do not be deceived by their beauty, they even possess the strength of a rank 2 martial warrior. Chapter 464. Fourth young master, I want to give birth to a bear for you. A bear woman shrieked. Fourth young master, I can help you change your gender. Fourth young master, I am easy to raise, you just need to feed me. A pighead girl said sweetly. The host continued, next, let's welcome the opponent. Yihua. The iron gate slowly rose, and Yihua's figure slowly walked out with a cigarette in his mouth. His eyes were slightly squinted, and his hands were placed behind his back, looking like he was taking a stroll in his backyard. Seems like today is going to be a battle between two handsome men. This contestant Yihua seems to be very calm and relaxed. Everyone, let's wait and see if there is any secret hidden in this match. In the floating private room, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji were like two little fangirls. Yihua, do your best. Yihua, do your best. And on the stage, Yihua seemed to have heard their cheers as he blew a kiss towards them. So handsome Qingye and Donghuang Baiji were both mesmerized by Yihua. My husband is just so handsome, just so awesome, there is no reasoning with him. Yihua, who was standing on the stage, thought, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji finally got to see me acting cool. This is also the first time they have seen me acting cool, right? Just that, this stage is a bit small and boring. This isn't my style, and it doesn't even reach my level of acting cool. Following the start of the match, the entire stage became silent. They were waiting to see this handsome man get torn apart by the fourth young master and celebrate their winnings. Just that, some girls couldn't bear to see this. How nice would it be to have such a handsome man as my toy boy, but he is actually going to die soon. Yihua threw away the cigarette in his mouth, then used his shiny black leather shoes to extinguish the cigarette to prevent it from starting a fire. Recently, I have been training my physical body. After all, I have to share my two wives equally, and it won't do if I don't have a strong physique. After all, the Empress's resistance is getting stronger and stronger, and she is about to become autistic. Qingye darling is also pregnant, so she doesn't feel good asking for too much. If I knew that their physical bodies are very strong, and I only have an ordinary physical body, how could I possibly win against them? After training for the past few days, I feel that my physical body is gradually becoming stronger. It's not that I'm cheating, it's that I'm too strong. To be able to die in my hands is also your fortune. After all, I never kill salted fish. The four young masters of the main city began to disperse and stand in four different directions of Yihua. What they wanted was a victory, so they showed their strength without holding back. Beat him. I can get my money back. He would be able to get his hands on a Cosmos God weapon, and he would be able to snatch a woman. There were simply too many benefits. This person had to die. For voices rang out at the same time, and the aura of a second-grade martial warrior erupted from their bodies. Waves of earth-shattering spiritual chi swept through the entire arena. In the face of this kind of battle, the organizers had activated their protective energy to prevent ordinary people from getting hurt. The immense spiritual pressure continued to rise, and cracks appeared on the ground of the arena. Thick blood vessels were exposed on the surface of the skin, and all the bones in the body crackled like beans, emitting an aura of supremacy in the world. The pupils of the four young masters shrunk, and a powerful killing intent emerged and immediately attacked towards Yihua. The four young masters were like a sharp arrow that was charging up. For different directions, for fists, the air was like a pot of boiling water, surging and roaring. A punch from a martial warrior was very rarely seen, especially in this kind of small city. However, right now, everyone was looking at a punch from a martial warrior. The might of this punch even caused the sky to become angry, and rumbling sounds could be heard. On the other hand, the man in the middle did not move at all. His expression did not even have any change, giving off a feeling as if he was waiting for death. However, only the four young masters who were attacking Yihua were able to clearly see that Yihua's eyes were like a bottomless abyss, flickering with an eerie light. Yihua's eyes were like a stranger that had killed his way out from hell. Even though Yihua was just standing there quietly, Yihua was still giving off an unlimited amount of pressure. Die! Dai Anren shouted out, cheering himself on. Yihua slightly looked towards Dai Anren, who was attacking towards him. You all don't know anything about my strength. When Dai Anren came into contact with Yihua's gaze, his entire body went numb. And Yihua moved. This kind of movement was something that no one was able to see. Yihua's speed had reached a kind of abnormal degree. Yihua clenched his right hand into a fist and punched towards Si Wenxian's head. Soon after, Yihua immediately jumped to the front of Shui Gao, raised his right leg high up into the air, and fiercely gave a side kick. Yihua once again moved at high speed and kicked onto Si Wenxian's face. Soon after, Yihua punched onto Zhao Gang's head. After that, Yihua returned back to his original position. However, in the eyes of others, Yihua's movements did not even take 0.01 seconds. When half a second passed, the four people who were jumping high up into the air actually exploded in the air. All four heads exploded, and the headless corpses fell heavily onto the ground. The headless corpses only stopped after sliding for a few meters. The whole place was dead silent. Even if an embroidery needle fell to the ground, it would be heard clearly. Looking at the corpses that were scattered all around, no one was able to accept this fact. Just a moment ago, they were clearly so imposing. Why did their heads explode in the air? Meanwhile, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji, who were in the floating private room, had already started hugging each other to celebrate. My husband's speed is indeed very fast, and in other aspects, he is even more comfortable. No one at the scene cheered for Yihua. All of them had yet to recover from their shock. Everything happened too quickly. There wasn't any technique involved at all, and Yihua was able to instantly kill his opponents. However, in their hearts, this shouldn't be the end result. The organizer immediately played the video that was played just now, and after checking the video frame by frame, they finally found out that something was fishy. Looking at Yihua, who was playing on the video, the staff fell into a daze. This is the video that was played at the slowest speed, and I was only able to capture a little bit of the video. Just how fast is this speed? This kind of video was played very quickly. After the audience saw the video, they felt that their hearts couldn't take it anymore. This is too fast. This is too fast. This man who is this terrifying is the formidable one. He instantly killed the four young masters of the main city. Although this is the arena, I will still suffer from revenge. Right now, there were a lot of people walking towards the rooftop, and there were even people queuing up at the places where there were a lot of people. Just now, there were a lot of people who were gambling their family fortune, and when the four young masters became four corpses, they were in despair. There were also a lot of rich people who were instantly stupefied. Although it wasn't to the extent of going bankrupt, but that was still a huge amount of mobile funds. How are we going to fill up such a huge amount of mobile funds? Isn't this the same as forcing people to jump off a building? Yihua took out a cigarette and lit it up. To be honest, I didn't enjoy the fun of the battle at all. It was because I was too weak. Yihua looked towards the MC coldly, still not announcing the result. The MC's entire body immediately turned cold, and while trembling with fear, he held onto the microphone. I announce, the winner of this battle is Yihua. Although the MC had already announced the result, no one at the scene was able to become excited, and they revealed a gaze of fear as they looked at the man who was in the arena. Chapter 465. In the main city tens of thousands of miles away, the four fathers saw their sons die tragically in the arena with their own eyes, and their faces changed dramatically. For the sake of the Cosmos divine weapon, they had gathered together to discuss how to distribute it. Who would have thought that they would actually lose? Now that they had no money and no goods, the only way they could think of was to rob. Just as they were discussing, a servant came to report that the young master had participated in the arena. He didn't expect that his son would actually decide to duel on his own. At the same time, he was thinking in his heart that they definitely had the confidence. As long as they killed that man, they would be able to obtain the Cosmos God weapon. Thinking about it this way, his son's decision was quite smart. However, the battle had just begun. His son's performance was not bad, and his momentum was strong. But in a short while, he had turned into 4 corpses. The 4 fathers were all shocked. For him to be able to kill his opponent with such a fast speed, it could be seen how terrifying his strength was. How could someone who could take out a Cosmos God artifact be an ordinary person? What a miscalculation! While he was angry, he did not dare to retaliate. He could not retaliate at all. The other party was simply too powerful. Brother Zhao, why don't we use someone else to do the dirty work and spread the news about the Cosmos God artifact? Brother Dai, this move of yours is pretty good. There are so many people who want the Cosmos God artifact. As long as we send out the news, there will naturally be people who will go and find this man. Then he will die under the group attack. He will die a horrible death. I've also avenged my son, ha. The 4 fathers appeared to be very crazy, but this was also normal behavior. Right now, Yihua still didn't know that someone had already arranged an opponent for him and was currently hugging onto his 2 wives who were acting coquettishly. Facing against Qingya and Donghuang Baiji's coquettish attacks, Yihua was unable to control himself, and he agreed to everything that they asked of him. This is a kind of, whatever you want to do, I, the Supreme Overlord, will satisfy you. Shi Tingting hid at the side. She had goosebumps all over her body. Sir and Madam were really too intimate. She really couldn't stand it. Suddenly, the man's mobile phone rang, and then it said, "Sir, your child is here." Yihua, who was carrying his wife, turned his head around and said, "Oh? Had Ali had enough fun? Let's go back then. Have we reached Brett's location?" "Sir, that's good." The floating room returned to the bar, and the few of them left immediately, leaving behind the dizzy Feng of Lan. Daddy Mommy, Dong Huangli jumped down from Zish Qingyi's embrace, then ran towards her parents. "I haven't seen Daddy and Mommy for a few hours. I really miss Daddy and Mommy." Dong Huang Baiji immediately hugged onto her daughter and asked with concern, "Little fellow, you still know to come back." "I'm sorry, Mommy," Dong Huangli said pitifully. Yihua said with a smile, "All right, that doesn't matter. Ali has grown up." "Papa is right, Ali has grown up." Fei Bai and Zish Qingyi walked over slowly and said respectfully, "Sir, Madam." Qingya smiled slightly and said, "Ali, thank you all for taking care of me." Fei Bai and Zish Qingyi were terrified. Ali should be the one taking care of them. "Madam, you're being too polite. If there's nothing else, we'll take our leave first," Fei Bai said softly, displaying his excellent manners. Yihua nodded his head, and Dong Huangli waved her hand. "Big brother Fei, big sister Qingyi, goodbye, let's meet again another day." The 2 of them turned around and waved with a smile. "Little wimp, to think that we can meet another day." Dong Huang Baiji pinched onto the flesh on her daughter's face. Dong Huang Li laughed mischievously, then hugged onto her mother and began sleeping. So comfortable, Shi Tingting said respectfully at the side. Sir, madam, the organizer said that the money that you two won will be returned within 10 days, and the money that you two won has already been returned to you. Won money? Yi Hua asked confusedly. When Yi Hua heard that his wives had just participated in the gamble and even won money, Yi Hua became very happy. Finally, my wives have become a bit naughty. Shi Tingting, where is Brett's home? Yi Hua asked. Sir, Brett's home is in a slum. Let's go. If Blue Blaze planet's long, and city was as big as a province, then the size of a slum would be as big as a city. After Brett received the 1,000 gold coins, he sat on the Lightspeed tram and returned to the slum. Touching onto his sore shoulders, Brett revealed out a smile. All of this is worth it. Grandpa will be able to be sent to the best hospital to receive treatment. After getting off the tram, Brett felt as if he had arrived at another world. The streets of the slum were filled with trash, the streets were filled with violence and sex, and all of the buildings were built with scrap iron. The prostitutes were leaning on the street lamp and swaying their bodies. As long as they could earn money, they would do anything. Brett, you actually came back alive. It seems like you have gotten the prize money. 3 delinquents could be seen walking over slowly. Their faces were covered with tattoos, their lips and noses were pierced with iron nails, and their hands were holding onto thick and big sticks. If it was before, Brett would be afraid of them. However, I had just killed an ox and defeated a strong opponent, so why would I be afraid of these 3 delinquents? That's right, 1,000 gold coins. Brett said gravely while opening his cyan eyes. That's good, we have 999 gold coins, you can keep 1 gold coin for yourself. Brett asked, aren't you all curious about how I survived from the arena? Your opponent must have committed suicide. After finished speaking, the 3 delinquents laughed loudly. Suddenly, an old man walked over from the side. He is the ox who won 5 consecutive championships. He used an iron axe to chop off his opponent's head. What? That's impossible. The 3 delinquents were shocked. Brett said gravely, I can kill an ox for my grandpa, let alone small humans like you. You wait for me. I'll go call Big Brother. The 3 delinquents hurriedly ran away. The old man said to Brett, quickly go back and see your grandpa. Maybe you can see him for the last time. Brett didn't have time to thank them and ran back home. In a waste disposal station in the slums, there was a row of bungalows with people living in them. At this time, they were all surrounding one of the houses. The anxious Brett ran until he was sweating profusely. Finally, he ran to the door and shouted, Grandpa, I have money, we can go to the hospital now. The people surrounding the house turned around and looked at Brett, their gazes filled with pity and sorrow. Brett stopped in his tracks. The people in front of him gave him a bad premonition, especially that sorrowful gaze. It can't be. Brett ran to the door and gently pushed it open, afraid that he would disturb his grandpa and make him cough. In the room of a few square meters, there was a bed, a small table, and a basin for drawing water. On the table, there was the porridge that his grandpa hadn't finished drinking. Although it was very poor, this small home gave Brett warmth. It was 100 times warmer than the outside world. Chapter 466. Brett looked at his grandfather who had fallen asleep, then slowly walked to the bedside. His hands lightly shook for a bit, and his pair of green eyes seemed to be at a loss. Grandpa, I am back, we have money now, look. Brett took out a virtual card, and on the virtual card was displayed 1,000 gold coins. With a smile on her face, she seemed to be waiting for her grandpa to stretch out his hand and stroke her hair, and praise her. However, that feeling was gone. Grandpa, other than treating your illness, we can also buy some delicious food. Don't you want to eat corn on the cob? We can buy it now. Brett held onto his grandpa's big hand that was full of calluses and placed it beside his face, but his grandpa's big hand no longer had the warmth that it had in the past, only that heart-piercing coldness. Grandpa, get up, quickly get up. Brett used all of her strength to shake her grandpa's body, but no matter how much she shook her grandpa's body, Her grandpa couldn't get up anymore. She couldn't see her grandpa's benevolent smile anymore, and even more so, she couldn't ride on her grandpa's shoulder to watch the sunset. Hearing Brett's voice, everyone who was standing outside felt very sad, and some girls even let out small sobbing sounds. Only they knew how bitter this grandfather and grandson pair were. Although it was bitter, they were very happy. This kind of positive energy was also improving them, and they were once again filled with hope towards this world. Suddenly, 3 old cars appeared at the entrance of the house, the kind that had wheels, and the exhaust was clearly not up to standard. But this was not the main point. 10 or so strangely dressed hoodlums could be seen walking down from the car. The leader of the hoodlums was very tall and very skinny. He wore an orange suit, green pants, and a pair of golden shoes. Beside him was a girl who wore a sexy black camisole, just that her skin was dark and her looks were not good. Looking at her was a bit disgusting. "Where's Brett?" The boss slightly raised his head and asked coldly. "You guys are really enough. Bullying his grandfather and grandson for a few years, and now you still don't want to let them off." The neighbor at the side couldn't help but berate, "These people are simply heartless." "That's right. Brett's grandfather has already passed away. What else do you want?" The boss sneered, "That old man's death has nothing to do with me. You capture Brett for me." The boss fiercely gave the order. 3 or 4 hoodlums ran into the house and pulled out Brett, who was in pain. At this moment, Brett was already filled with despair towards the world, and even more so, he was thinking, how good would it be if he died in the arena? That way, he would be able to be together with his grandfather. One of the gangsters found Brett's card and handed it to the boss. "The password?" the boss asked in a deep voice. At this moment, Brett was like a person who had lost his soul. His eyes were unfocused, and he couldn't hear the words of others at all. All of his thoughts were deeply immersed in his own consciousness. Seeing no reaction from Brett, the boss raised his hand and slapped him. But this slap sent Brett tumbling to the ground, but Brett did not react at all. He was like a walking corpse. "You bastards!" The 2 men couldn't stand it anymore and rushed over. The boss sneered, "Drag him to the side and cripple him." If everyone were to attack together, it would be hard to tell who would win or lose. Unfortunately, the 2 men were knocked down to the ground by 4 or 5 gangsters, and those gangsters hit the men with sticks without any regard for their lives. To them, suffering such heavy injuries was no different from waiting for death, because they had no money to see a doctor. Just like Brett's grandfather, in the beginning he only suffered from a slight cold, but slowly, it became a serious illness. "Brett, tell me the password, and you'll suffer less." The boss took the baseball bat from his underling and said to Brett. Brett still didn't react. The boss laughed, then held onto the baseball bat with both of his hands, aimed at the back of Brett's head, then raised the baseball bat up high. Bang! The baseball bat fiercely hit onto the back of Brett's head, letting out a clear and melodious sound. Everyone couldn't stand it anymore. There is basically no one who cares about the slums, and people are dying every day. The heavy hit on the back of Brett's head caused him to faint. The boss waved the baseball bat that was covered in blood and whistled, "Wake him up." The underlings seemed to have gotten used to it, and they took out the taser from the car. This is the best way to wake someone up. Zzz. Along with the sound of intense coughing, Brett was electrocuted and coughed out blood nonstop, and his pair of green eyes became red due to being congested with blood. "I will ask you one more time. What is the password?" The boss gave the final announcement. Brett turned his head around with great effort and looked towards the boss, then closed his eyes. His attitude was already very clear. The boss took a deep breath because he was angry. "Brett, since your grandfather is already dead, why do you have to continue suffering? Let me free you." After finished speaking, the boss once again raised the baseball bat that was covered in blood and fiercely smashed onto Brett's head. Bang! The melodious sound caused everyone's heart to feel very heavy, and they could only watch helplessly as Brett was beaten to death by a hooligan. The boss threw the baseball bat that was in his hand to his underling, then looked at the card that was in his hand, then threw it onto Brett's body, as if he was telling the 2 of you to properly use these 1,000 gold coins in hell. Brett's head was already dyed red with blood, and there was no longer any aura left on his body. Evidently, he was beaten to death by this boss. Let's go. The boss gave the order. However, right at this moment, a luxurious aircraft appeared in the sky and was hovering in the sky. Everyone was very surprised. There is actually a rich person who came to the slums. This is truly a miracle. Boss, this aircraft might cost a few million gold coins. One of the underlings reminded. The boss squinted his eyes and began to have ideas about this aircraft. He decided to look at the situation first before deciding what to do. A blue light shone down, and Yi Hua could be seen holding onto Qin Ye's shoulder while Shi Tingting appeared below. Dong Huang Baiji was taking care of her daughter inside, so she didn't come down. Yi Hua looked at the row of single-story houses in front of him, and the surrounding was emitting a rusty smell. Yi Hua slightly wrinkled his brows. "We are staying here? Sir." However, when the surrounding people sized up Yi Hua, this person's bearing revealed a sense of arrogance. Judging from the way he is dressing, he is definitely a person with power. After all rich people dress like this. When they saw Qin Ye, a lot of people were stupefied. This was the first time that they had seen such a beautiful woman. Although the woman behind Qin Ye was also beautiful, she wasn't as beautiful as this woman. This woman's beauty already had no bottom line. And when those hooligans saw the back of the two women, they knew that the two women were definitely very beautiful. "Where's Brett?" Yi Hua asked faintly. These neighbors didn't expect that this arrogant man was actually here to look for Brett. Why haven't I heard of him before? Brett actually knows a rich person. A little girl within the crowd pointed towards the back of Yi Hua. Chapter 467. Qin Ye and Shi Tingting turned their heads to look, and their faces immediately changed. When the scoundrel saw Qin Ye's appearance, his saliva almost flowed out. I have never seen such a beautiful woman in my entire life. Although she is pregnant, it will definitely feel great. Yi Hua's gaze gradually became cold, and Qin Ye was the same as well. Only Shi Tingting appeared to be very surprised. With heavy footsteps, Yi Hua walked to Brett's side. The back of Brett's head was filled with blood, and even his skull was dented. Yi Hua was very angry. "I only came a bit late. This kind of thing actually happened. These trash actually killed Brett. They actually killed one of his 7 deadly sins, Brett. I still want to know what happened to Brett's body. You filthy human, the source of all evil. Yi Hua, are you all right?" Seeing that her husband's mood was not very good, Qin Ye asked worriedly. Yi Hua did not pay attention to Qin Ye and stretched out his hand to inspect Brett's body. As expected, it is her. Although she is already dead, as long as I awaken her power, she will be able to come back to life. In actuality, ever since Brett appeared, Yi Hua was a bit suspicious. This Brett is one of my 7 sins, the angry representative. Why did I say it was suspicious? Because in the past, Brett was a tall and beautiful woman, while right now, Brett was a little short. This made Yi Hua very curious. Just what happened to this Brett? How did she become a little child? She is the queen of the night elves, but right now, she doesn't look like a night elf at all. Her hair is all white, and she is no different from a normal elf. Thinking back then, Brett was very awesome. She managed to escape from the elf queen's pursuit, then met me and swore to be loyal to me. As long as I can kill her big sister, she is willing to do anything for me. The elf queen's skull on Yi Hua's skeleton throne was personally cut off by Brett. And Brett's strong point was her strange sneak attacks, especially her archery. It had simply reached an abnormal realm, making it hard for people to guard against it. Brett was second to none when it came to long-distance battles, but if someone were to get close to her, her strength would at least decrease by half. But I never expected that Brett would actually be killed by a group of scoundrels. If I didn't discover Brett, she would have completely disappeared. Brett, who was lying on the ground, gradually floated up. His body shone with a green light, and the bloodstains on his face and hair gradually disappeared. His entire body became clean. However, it was a pity that Brett was only a child. Brett was a very sexy and fiery elf woman. Of course, Brett was only loyal to Yi Hua. However, Brett had thoughts about Ju Tian. Unfortunately, she was fiercely rejected by Absolute Heaven. His reason was that he, Absolute Heaven, would never touch a woman in his life. Yi Hua looked at Brett and stretched out his finger. A golden light shot into Brett's abdomen. Bang! A powerful airwave rushed out from Brett's body, and the power within Brett's body was instantly released, which began healing Brett's fleshly body. Adding on Yi Hua's assistance from the side, Brett's injuries healed very quickly, and this caused Yi Hua to heave a sigh of relief. Qingya and Shi Dingting, who were at the side, were very surprised. This was the first time that Qingya had seen Yi Hua saving someone instead of killing someone. Seems like the elf race is very important to Yi Hua. Moreover, from that aura just now, this elf was very strong. The hooligans didn't dare to move. They wanted to escape, but their feet seemed to be filled with lead and couldn't move. Brett, who was in the sky, gradually descended, and his aura was completely retracted. No spiritual energy fluctuation could be felt from him at all. When Brett opened his dark green eyes once again, everyone felt that Brett had changed. Brett could be seen looking at Yi Hua and being startled. Soon after, Brett walked in front of Yi Hua and slowly knelt down. Subordinate Brett pays respect to your honor. Yi Hua forgot to tell Brett. Your honor. Qingya was very confused. You came to a foreign planet to travel, and you are still able to meet your subordinate? And you are still calling me your honor? What is going on? Yi Hua said faintly, my Dharma name is your honor, and Brett is my subordinate who has been separated from me for many years. So that's how it is. Qingya understood, and Shi Dingting, who was at the back, was stupefied. Your honor, please allow subordinate to deal with my personal matters first, and afterward, I will come and look for your honor to ask for forgiveness. Brett's tone became strange and eerie. Furthermore, Brett seemed especially mature, completely unable to tell that he was a child. Yi Hua nodded his head. I will allow you to deal with those who deserve to die. Leave none alive. Your honor. Brett was already on the verge of being unable to suppress the anger in his heart. If not for his honor being present, he would have already flown into a rage. Yi Hua hugged onto the puzzled Qingya and returned to the flying device in the sky. After returning to the flying device, he had to explain to Donghuang Baiji. In the end, the two women came to the conclusion that their husband was tricking someone else again. He already knew that it was his subordinate. Raising his head and looking at his honor leaving, Brett let out a deep breath, then slowly turned around and looked at the 10+ scoundrels. Brett, don't think that you're great just because you know rich people. I know him too. Big Brother was a little scared by Brett's imposing manner. Do you think this has anything to do with money? Brett angrily shouted. Along with Brett's angry roar, more than 10 thick and solid tree vines extended from the ground like pythons. This made the hooligans paralyzed on the ground in fright. What kind of monster was this? Thick vines wrapped around the hooligan, binding him tightly like a python. Brett shouted angrily, you should also taste the taste of pain. The tree vines gradually tightened, and more than 10 hooligans let out miserable howls. It was like a hydraulic press, slowly compressing them. Blood sprayed out from all of the hooligans' mouth, eyes, and ears, and their skin began to burst open just like watermelons. Hearing the miserable howls of the hooligans, Brett walked towards the small bungalow. However, no one dared to get close to Brett, and all of them distanced themselves from him. The current Brett was even scarier than those hooligans. Yi Hua's entire family was temporarily staying at Shi Dingting's villa. In any case, right now we have a lot of money, so we are preparing to build a big manor and try out all kinds of high technology. Donghuang Baiji took the lead and brought her daughter to sleep, and Qingya could only feel helpless. However, in actuality, she also wanted to do it. After all, it is rather comfortable to do it once a day, and it is beneficial to one's health. Right now, Yi Hua was bathing, and Qingya, who was outside, asked, Yi Hua, Shi Dingting said that universe trash of yours will be exposed. Yi Hua lied in the bathtub and received the fully automatic bathing method. This is simply the welfare of a lazy person. This set of equipment must definitely be installed in my bedroom. It doesn't matter, in any case, we are all here to travel. Yi Hua shouted comfortably with his eyes closed. Qinya still did not know what her husband's goal was, and just let him be. Hey, how much longer are you going to bathe for? I have already waited for you for half an hour. Qinya was really bored sitting on the bed. Yi Hua said comfortably, let me bathe for another half an hour. Chapter 468. Then there was the trivial matter between husband and wife. Without this kind of trivial matter, how could life continue? How could life become perfect? So many people insisted on this kind of trivial matter. The first day of interstellar travel ended happily just like that. Although it was a little tricky, it was still quite interesting. He had witnessed the development of technology. It seemed that there was no work that required human labor. Everything was done by robots. However, this situation did not seem optimistic. For example, the people in the slums could not find a job at all. Every day, there were people joining the slums. They were all forced to go there. Money was too important. Just when Yi Hua was hugging onto Qinya and sleeping, the entire Blue Blaze star seemed to be in an uproar. Late at night, a piece of news spread out. A Cosmos God artifact had appeared. Obtaining a Cosmos divine weapon would allow one to stand on equal footing with the Federation president and control life and death. This news not only shocked the major cities, but even the imperial capital was shaken. Everyone was curious about the source of the news. Federation President Felisa had called for an emergency roundtable meeting. Including him, there were a total of 6 people. The other 5 were the 3 great martial kings, Zhuang Hong, Qing Yan, and Gao Han. The director of the Space Administration, Ji Yang. Home of martial arts leader, Wu Xiangwen. In the eyes of the world, they may only know of the 3 martial kings. In fact, the director of the Space and Time General Administration is also a martial king expert. The same is true for the leader of the martial arts family, Wu Xiangwen. Even the president himself is a martial king. President Felipe was a fair-skinned, seductive man. His appearance was a little androgynous, but his body was very dignified. This feeling was very strange. The Cosmos God equipment is in Long N City. Is this news true? Felisa gently knocked on the table and asked aloud. Ji Yang, the director of the Space and Time General Administration, said, Your Excellency, when the news came out, I sent people to catch the person who spread the rumor. Under torture, this rumor is true. In order to cause unnecessary chaos, I have already silenced him. Those 4 family heads let out the news that the Cosmos divine artifact was in Long N City, but they didn't mention who it was. In the end, they were captured by this bureau chief, and after being whipped, they obediently revealed the situation. In the end, all of them were silenced. The leader of the House of Martial Arts, Wu Xiangwen, was a white-haired old man with deep wrinkles on his face. Although his eyes were closed, he was still listening. Who is it? Wu Xiangwen asked with his eyes closed. Ji Yang smiled and said, I wonder if everyone paid attention to the special match last night. Obviously, no one would pay attention to this. Bureau Chief Ji, don't beat around the bush. Felisa said coldly. Ji Yang paused and pulled out the video. According to the confession, this man has a Cosmos divine weapon. Everyone looked towards the virtual screen, and when they saw Yi Hua instantly killing 4 people, they all went into a daze. This man should be a martial master, Martial King Zhuang Hong said coolly. Cheng Yan stroked his beard. I didn't expect a puny martial master to obtain a Cosmos divine weapon. Perhaps he has some skill. Gao Han laughed lightly. Ji Yang continued, Your Excellency, there are 2 women and a child with this man. The 2 women are his wives. This child was born to one of the wives, and the other is pregnant. They should be travelers. Very soon, Qinya, Donghuang Baiji, and Donghuang Li's photos appeared on the screen. Everyone went into a daze. Even Wu Xiangwen, who had his eyes closed the entire time, opened his eyes. No matter how old a man is, he would always have this kind of love for beauty. The appearance of the 2 women is indeed very astonishing, but their exact strength is unknown. However, this child destroyed 2 testing machines during the test yesterday. I'm afraid that he should have the strength of an 8th or 9th rank martial warrior. Ji Yang continued to report the information. Felisa slightly wrinkled his brows and said coolly, in order to ensure the stability of the universe, this Cosmos Divine weapon definitely has to be taken back. The other party is only a martial master, there is nothing to fear. Which one of you is going to take care of this matter? In actuality, you can put it in another way. Which one of you is going to take care of this matter? This old man is willing to take back the Cosmos Divine weapon for your Excellency President. Wu Xiangwen said gravely. Seems like this old man is very evil, to actually have ideas on Qingya and Donghuang Baiji. That can't be helped, their beauty is something that both the young and the old are attracted to. Felisa nodded his head. This matter has to be done secretly, don't let anyone find out about it. Don't worry, Your Excellency. I will make the necessary arrangements. That's good. Right now, I reckon that there are a lot of people who are rushing towards Long and City, wanting to try their luck. They are just some people with ulterior motives. Kill as many as you can. Felisa sneered. Truly a bunch of fellows who don't know the difference between life and death, to think that they are on equal footing with me. Long and City was indeed very lively today. The number of aircrafts in the sky was 10 times more than usual, the streets were filled with dense masses of people, there were also a lot of outsiders waiting to enter the city. They had all come after receiving the news. They wanted to try their luck or broaden their horizons. Although they did not know whether it was true or not, they still came. Right now, it was already 10 in the morning, and Yi Hua was still hugging onto Qingya and sleeping. Both of his hands had already reached into Qingya's pajamas and was lightly holding onto Qingya's pajamas. In the past, it was Qingya who couldn't fall asleep if she didn't hug onto something at night. Right now, it was Yi Hua who couldn't fall asleep if he didn't hug onto something at night. Woo! Qingya let out an alluring moan. Pursing her lips, she turned her body and leaned into her husband's embrace. After a while, Qingya said, Yehua, how much longer are we going to sleep for? Qingya, you seem to have developed again. Yi Hua did not answer Qingya's question. Qingya said petulantly, isn't it all because of you massaging me? Seems like my technique is pretty good. Yi Hua felt that the feeling of his pajamas was getting better and better. Dong, 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 Daddy, Mommy Qing, time to wake up. Dong Huangli knocked on the door and shouted out. Qingya said with a slight smile, all right, the child is here, don't mess around. Yi Hua took out his pair of sinful hands and was a bit reluctant to part with them. Qingya wore her pajamas and opened the door. Dong Huangli, who was at the door, stretched out her hands, wanting to hug Dong Huangli, little fellow. Qingya lovingly pinched onto Ali's nose, then carried Ali. Yi Hua also stood up while wearing his pajamas and pulled open the curtains. It is another beautiful day. Mr. Something happened. Shi Tingting, who was standing at the door, had an anxious look on her face. Oh. Yi Hua responded faintly, then walked into the washroom. Qingya was playing with Ali. Shi Tingting felt that she was no longer able to think normally. When I told Donghuang Baiji in the morning, the latter didn't seem to care at all. When I told Donghuang Baiji about it, the latter also had the same expression on her face. They don't seem to be worried at all, but why am I worried to death? Chapter 469. After Yi Hua and Qingya finished washing up, Yi Hua carried his daughter and walked downstairs. Shi Tingting had already prepared a sumptuous breakfast. This alien ate quite tastefully. There were food that flew in the sky, walked on the ground, and swam in the water. Thinking back to himself, it was really easy to get rid of him with just a Chinese jianbing. Why aren't you two eating? Yi Hua asked faintly. Dong Huangli sat beside her father and placed some food on her father's plate. With a smile on her face, Dong Huangli said, Mommy and I woke up a long time ago, we are already full. Even your daughter said that you are lazy. Qingya teased. Yi Hua shook his head. I have to set a good example and be a good father. Okay, tomorrow, Ali will wake Papa up. Let's go jogging together. That's great. Dong Huangli clapped her hands, and her face was brimming with happiness. Shi Tingting, who was serving them by the side, felt very helpless. Couldn't you guys be a little more nervous? This was a big matter. If others were to find out that you guys had a Cosmos Divine weapon on you guys would be done for. Moreover, she was certain that the imperial capital was also making a move. Shi Tingting, what did you say just now? Yi Hua asked curiously. Shi Tingting felt that she could finally talk about it. With a nervous tone, she said, Mister, your Cosmos Divine weapon has been exposed. Many people have come here today, and all of them are here to look for the Cosmos Divine weapon. The imperial capital might send people here as well. And this house of yours is a bit small. Go and buy a manor, the bigger the better, you can spend the money however you want. Yi Hua felt that he wouldn't be able to finish spending the money, so he should just spend it however he wanted. Sir, I bought it. Shi Tingting was already in despair. How could it be another topic again? But in this place, as long as you have money, you can buy anything quickly. Yi Hua was still very satisfied with Shi Tingting's ability to handle matters. Being an agent of Blue Blaze Planet is pretty good. After we finish eating, we will go and take a look. Yi Hua said faintly. Right after Yi Hua finished speaking, a petite figure landed outside the door and knocked on the door. Shi Tingting walked forward and opened the door. It was Brett from yesterday. Brett walked to Yi Hua's side and said respectfully, Your Honor. Are you done? Yi Hua asked faintly. It's done. Brett nodded. Then let's sit down and eat something. We'll go out and see the house later. Yes. These two are my wives and she is my child. Yi Hua introduced unhurriedly. Brett was very astonished. His Honor actually has a wife and a child? Isn't this a bit too ridiculous? Honorable Madam, Little Honorable. Brett hurriedly greeted. This was the first time that Qingya and Donghuang Baiji had been called by someone in such a way, and they were a bit not used to it. However, they still smiled and agreed to it. Donghuang Li looked at Brett curiously. She thought to herself, Brett shouldn't be much older than me, right? Why is she also Daddy's subordinate? Papa is using child labor, Aunt Yi is also a child labor. If Yi Zizi knew that she was called a child laborer, she would definitely explode with joy. Brett was different from the others. He was always serious and unsmiling. Yi Hua sent a sound transmission over to Brett. Ask him what exactly is going on. Why did you suddenly become a child? It turned out that after Brett died, he did not return to his original appearance. Instead, he turned into a baby, as if he had come back to life. Yi Hua, who received this news, nodded his head. I feel that this matter is fishy, this is too strange. For the safety of the other two subordinates, Yi Hua gave up on the principle of not searching for them and searched for their location. The result that he obtained was very shocking. They were still in their original world. Why didn't the two of them appear in other worlds? Strange. This is too strange. However, this is also very interesting. After I settle the matters on Earth, I will go back and ask them about it. Daddy, what should I call Brett? Donghuang Li asked curiously. Just call her Aunt. But Aunt Brett is only a bit older than Ali. It is very impolite to call her Aunt. Donghuang Li said doubtfully. Brett was also very gloomy. I am still a child right now, how can I be called Aunt? His Honor is really messing around, Little Honorable is right. Brett and Yi Zizi address each other as sisters. Ali, what do you think I should call you? Yi Hua said indifferently. Donghuang Li understood, then obediently shouted out, Aunt Brett. Brett was very hurt. It would be good if I can grow up quickly. I really hate this head of white hair. My black hair looks much better. Yi Hua felt that Brett's white hair looked rather good, so he ordered Brett not to change it. He was already sick of it in the past. Brett didn't expect that His Honor would even care about the color of his hair. The Supreme Overlord is even caring about his subordinate's private life. This is what a qualified manager should do. Your Honor, Zhu Tian? Brett couldn't help but inquire about Zhu Tian's news. How could Yi Hua not know what Brett meant by that? Yi Hua is truly chasing after Zhu Tian relentlessly. However, Zhu Tian doesn't seem to be interested in Brett. Zhu Tian is quite good. Yi Hua said. Donghuang Baiji smiled. Zhu Tian isn't just an ordinary good person, he already has 2 wives. Yi Hua gave Donghuang Baiji a meaningful glance. In the past, the reason why Zhu Tian rejected Brett was because he doesn't like women. Right now, Zhu Tian used his actions to slap his own face, which also means that he lied to Brett. Sure enough, upon hearing that Zhu Tian already has 2 wives, Brett's expression immediately changed, and a powerful anger immediately ignited within him. Yi Hua felt helpless. This Brett is just like an explosive, she will ignite at any moment. Perhaps, Zhu Tian doesn't like this point of hers. Donghuang Baiji realized that she said the wrong thing and glared at her husband. Why didn't you say so earlier? Yi Hua felt that after bringing Brett back, he would definitely quarrel with Zhu Tian. It would be fine as long as they don't fight. How could Brett have the mood to eat right now? That damned cat. To actually look for women behind my back. In the past, the cat kept on saying that I don't like women, so it's fine if he rejected me. But now, he is looking for 2 women at the same time. This liar cat, I am going to pluck out all of your fur. It had to be said that like boss, like subordinates. A few months ago, Yi Hua also kept on saying, what are women? How can I, the supreme overlord, possibly like human women? At the very most, it will only be once, and there definitely won't be a second time. Look at the current situation, women are what I, the supreme overlord, love the most, and I, the supreme overlord, love women the most. Brett, Zhu Tian only did this in order to complete the supreme overlord's order. Don't get too agitated. After saying this, Yi Hua felt that the situation wasn't good. As expected, Qinya and Donghuang Baiji cast a strange gaze at Yi Hua. Didn't you say that you did this to help Dongfang Yue? I didn't expect that it was all your scheme. Brett is settled now. The 2 wives pouted their small mouths and had an expression of, I am angry, and you are going to coax me. Chapter 470. Imperial Capital. In the Martial Arts Academy. This was an academy that combined science, technology, and strength. It was also the academy that all martial artists wanted to enter. Moreover, after graduation, there was no need to worry about the distribution of jobs. All the resources were fought over by major companies. Furthermore, the teachers in the academy were all experts of the martial master level. How could the students taught by such people be weak? On the rooftop of the teaching building, 2 ordinary-looking men were smoking and looking into the distance. If you thought they were ordinary people, you would be wrong. Wu Xiangwen was the principal, and they were his disciples. They had reached the 8th grade martial master at a young age. There was hope for them to suddenly become martial kings in the future. Yuan Long, lend me 3,000 gold coins. I'm short on money recently. The man grinned. Yuan Long was calmer. He asked, Jing Long, what's wrong? Did you gamble last night too? Who knew that 4th young master was such a noob? What a scam. A 2nd grade teacher lost everything yesterday. Today, he resigned and became a mercenary to earn money. Jing Long sighed heavily and shook his head. Gambling was not a good thing. People would jump off the building at any time. You're getting married soon. Don't gamble so much. Yuan Long took out 5,000 gold coins and gave it to Jing Long. Looking at the extra 2,000 gold coins, Jing Long clung to Yuan Long and smiled. You're a good brother. It's not a waste for me to take so much of the blame. You still have the nerve to say that? It's all your fault. Yen is a good girl. Don't make her worry. Yuan Long patted Jing Long's shoulder and reminded him carefully. Got it. Look at how worried you are. You're even better than master. Jing Long yawned and turned to lean against the railing. Brother, you should find a partner. There are a few good female teachers in the school. Jing Long persuaded. His brother Yuan Long was so obsessed with martial arts that he almost forgot his gender. Yuan Long put out the cigarette and said indifferently, We'll discuss it later. How's your marriage going? Do you need my help? No need. I'm getting married on the 25th of next month. I didn't expect that I would also step into the grave of marriage. Yuan Long patted his brother with a smile. Look at how smug you are. Brother, did you hear the rumor today? A Cosmos God artifact. Jing Long said with a surprised expression. If he could have a Cosmos divine weapon, How wonderful would that be? Yuan Long didn't really believe it. It's just a rumor. Don't believe it so easily. Beep, beep, the watches on the brothers' wrists rang at the same time. It was a message from their master, and they immediately disappeared. In the principal's office, Wu Xiangwen stood by the windowsill with his hands behind his back, looking at the 3 large satellites in the sky. His slightly narrowed eyes shone brightly. Master! Master! Wu Xiangwen slowly turned around and smiled kindly. You're not in class, are you? The 2 brothers shook their heads. Jing Long, what's the date of the wedding? Wu Xiangwen sat on a wooden chair and asked faintly. Master, on the 25th of next month. Jing Long said respectfully. Wu Xiangwen nodded. When the time comes, Master will definitely come to support you. Jing Long was overjoyed. Thank you, Master. You've all heard the rumors, right? Wu Xiangwen asked. The 2 brothers were startled. Master's words had a hidden meaning. Master, could it be that the rumors are true? A universe artifact has appeared? Jing Long asked excitedly. Wu Xiangwen nodded his head. I just had a meeting with His Excellency the President and gained his trust. The mission this time has fallen onto my shoulders. Yuan Long's expression was astonished. I didn't expect that the rumors were actually true. This is too inconceivable. A heaven-defying universe artifact has actually appeared. Master, is there anything that disciple can do for you? Yuan Long cupped his hands and asked. The burden on the 2 of your shoulders is very heavy. The target is already clear. With your strength, you should be able to instantly kill the other party and obtain the universe artifact. At that time, you will be able to make a great contribution, and I will be able to properly promote you in front of His Excellency the President. The 2 brothers were overjoyed. What they lacked was to make a great contribution. Only then would Wu Xiangwen have the chance to speak to the President. Thank you, Master, for your promotion. The 2 brothers bowed and cupped their hands again. All right, I have already sent the information to you too. Master will be waiting for your triumphant return. Yes. The 2 brothers left the principal's office and stood at the doorway. After taking a deep breath, they looked at each other. Confirmed with each other's gaze, Jing Long, your chance is here. Brother, it is our chances here. After looking at each other and smiling, the 2 brothers immediately went back to make preparations, then headed towards Long and City with the fastest speed possible. Of course, they relied on shuttling. The distance of more than 100,000 kilometers was reached within a minute. This was the advancement of technology. When the 2 brothers arrived at Long and City, they deeply sighed. A small city is indeed a small city. It is completely not as prosperous as the imperial capital. Brother, what should we do? Let's observe for a few days first, then make a plan to ensure that nothing goes wrong. After all, the other party has a universe artifact. We have to eliminate him before he takes it out. Yuan Long said attentively. After all, his little brother was going to get married soon. Nothing must go wrong. Jing Long said in disdain, Brother, aren't you being too cautious? Our sneak attack will definitely succeed. Even a martial king will suffer a loss, let alone a low-level martial master who is not on guard. Jing Long, don't underestimate the enemy. What did I teach you? Yuan Long shouted lightly. His little brother has such a bad habit. When he is about to suffer a loss, he will know the consequences of underestimating the enemy. Jing Long laughed. Brother, I think you are being too cautious. Sometimes you should give it your all. Don't cower. You brat. Brother, listen to me this time. Let's take a good look at the situation today, then make our move tomorrow. How about it? Jing Long was filled with confidence, and he didn't really put the matter to heart. After all, from the intelligence, the other party was only a rank 1 or 2 martial master. There was nothing to be afraid of. Let's take a look first. You are someone who is going to get married soon. Be more steady. All right, after we get married, I will definitely be steady. After finished speaking, the 2 disappeared within the sea of people. Right now, Yi Hua and his family were strolling leisurely within the big manor. Dong Huangli was running on the grass with her arms wide open, and her laughter was filled with joy. Qinya and Donghuang Baiji seemed to be choosing a home, and they were displaying their women's specialties. For example, this place needs to be changed, that place needs to be moved, and that place needs to be moved, and that place needs to be more beautiful. While smoking a cigarette, Yihua walked at the back. Brett's expression wasn't very good. He wished that he could go and question Zhu Tian right now. Your Honor, when are we going back? Brett asked in a low voice. Yihua let out a deep sigh. Right now, Yi Zizi can be considered to have been trained properly, and now that we have encountered Brett and Zhu Tian, why can't I, the Supreme Overlord, have some leisure time? Chapter 471. Brett had no choice. He didn't dare to go against his honor's order. How are the others? They are all doing well. I found my other half. Yihua blurted out. I didn't expect that this sentence of his would hurt Brett. Yihua patted onto Brett's shoulder. Don't be discouraged. Even without Zhu Tian, there are still other good men. Brett looked at Yihua with a resolute gaze. Your Honor, you understand me. How could I not understand? Zhu Tian has a bad temper and is also very stubborn. If I were to change, there might still be people who would like me. Zhu Tian must have suffered a lot. If Qinya and Donghuang Baiji had such a personality, I would have long. Your Honor. There are people. Brett said coldly. Yihua said faintly while smoking, it is normal for there to be people, it is abnormal for there to be no people. Do you want subordinate to kill them? This sentence coming out from the mouth of Brett was a bit weird. Yihua taught carefully, Brett, you haven't been by my side, so there are a lot of things that you don't understand. The way we deal with things now isn't as simple and crude as before. You need to know how to enjoy life, and not kill for the sake of killing. Isn't killing just killing? Brett asked doubtfully. That's why I said that you are too young and don't understand anything. I will properly teach you what acting skills are for the next few days. Right now, Yuan Long and Jing Long were hiding very far away. Even a martial king wouldn't be able to discover them. However, Brett wasn't a martial king, and Yihua wasn't a martial king either. Yihua, I feel that it is a bit expensive. Qinya displayed her CEO bargaining mode. She really didn't forget her old profession. Yihua said faintly, expensive? I feel that it is quite cheap. Add a bit more. Shi Tingting was speechless. Even if you have money, you shouldn't spend it like this. That's why our family's money can't be managed by you. Qinya snorted, then pulled Donghuang Baiji to continue bargaining. Fortunately, that intermediary was a woman and didn't get bewitched. If it was a man, he might have been cut in half. Yihua thought for a while, then suddenly thought of a good idea. He gathered everyone together. Meanwhile, on top of a tower that was more than 10 kilometers away, Jing Long held onto the most advanced telescope and asked curiously, what are they talking about? They should be discussing the price, Yuan Long said indifferently. Jing Long put down the binoculars. I told you. Now is a good opportunity. They are all gathered together. We can kill them all with a sneak attack and successfully complete the mission. Yuan Long still insisted on his own idea. Slow work yields fine results. Let's take action tomorrow. That's my brother. In the manner, the price was quickly finalized. It was a round number of 1 billion, which was really nothing. It was just a small amount of money. In Qinya's words, what can money do? He did not even know what money looked like. The servants were all robots. They were dexterous and hardworking, working 24 hours a day. The key was a one-time buyout with a lifetime warranty. At night, everyone sat at the dining table and ate the food made by the robot. Yihua felt that it was still all right. The food made by the robot was at the same level as the food made by the robot. The main point was that the crayfish here was really big, and the meat quality was also very delicious. After all, they were flown in from another planet, and everything they ate was luxurious. Shi Tingting, how about following me in the future? Yihua said faintly. Shi Tingting, who was sitting at the dining table, was startled. Soon after, she stood up and said while trembling with fear, Mister, is this for real? Of course, in the future, you will be my representative here. Yihua's single sentence instantly turned Shi Tingting into a person who was only below one person. Of course, she could take back her position with just a single sentence. It would depend on her performance in the future. Thank you for your trust, mister. I will not disappoint mister's expectations. Shi Tingting was overjoyed. Mister's origin is definitely very powerful, to the extent that he is not afraid of anything, and he even has a cosmos artifact in his hands. Following mister is definitely the wisest choice. Yi Hua waved his hand, indicating to Shi Tingting not to be too excited and to quickly sit down. What is there to be excited about? There are still many things to be excited about in the future. Yi Hua. Someone is coming. Dong Huang Baiji's eyebrows wrinkled. I didn't expect that they couldn't wait any longer. Let's go out for a walk. Don't ruin the house. Yi Hua wiped his mouth and stood up. Let's have a warm-up match first. Don't let the audience be disappointed. Dong Huang Li and Brett could be seen running out of the house while holding onto the balloons. Dong Huang Li was extremely happy. Daddy is going to act cool, mommy is going to act cool too. Ali is going to act cool too. Brett was very confused. Isn't it better to just directly kill them? Why are they doing this? This is so boring. Yi Hua hugged onto Qingya and Dong Huang Baiji's willowy waist, looking as if they were taking a walk after a meal. In front of him, the two children were playing, and behind him, Shi Tingting was following behind him. 1 kilometer away, Yuan Long and Jing Long were dressed in black attire, perfectly blending into the darkness of the night. The plan was slightly brought forward, the moon was dark and the wind was strong, it was very suitable for killing people. Brother, they are out. Jing Long said with a sneer. The mission this time is not that difficult. Yuan Long tightly wrinkled his brows. I don't feel good, they seem to be too relaxed. Am I thinking too much? Under normal circumstances, isn't this how it should be? Yuan Long said gravely, just kill the target, let the others go. Brother, if we make a move, the others will definitely be affected. Furthermore, we are so close to them. Jing Long said faintly. Yuan Long didn't say anything, and after a while, he said, let's make a move then. This is my brother. The two of them hurriedly separated from each other, and one of them launched a sneak attack from both sides. Yi Hua, they separated from each other. Qingya said with a smile. I didn't expect this, no matter where one is, one's desire for treasures will never change. Yi Hua said lightly. There will always be a group of people who think that they are unparalleled under the heavens, completely unaware that they are just frogs at the bottom of the world. Towards Yi Hua's sigh, the two wives didn't refute, this was an undeniable fact. They are coming. Dong Huang Baiji said faintly. 2 silver sword chi could be seen coming from both sides. The sword chi brought along a ferocious might, causing everyone's clothes to flutter madly. These two people only had the strength of low-end deities at best. They were able to withstand this sort of sneak attack with just their physical bodies, let alone Qingya and Dong Huang Baiji. Only Shi Tingting needed to be protected. Dong Huang Baiji didn't have the strength to protect herself. The 2 destructive silver sword chi pierced towards Yi Hua in a blink of an eye. The accuracy of the sword chi was just like cruise missiles. Boom! Boom! Chapter 472. Dust pervaded the air, and within the dust, Dong Huang Li happily took out the ketchup that she had prepared beforehand and smeared it onto her daddy and mommy's faces. Afterward, Dong Huang Li also smeared a bit of ketchup onto her own face, then smeared a bit of ketchup onto Brett's face. Brett appeared to be very confused. His honor really changed. In the past, his honor didn't care who the enemy was and would directly fight them. The current his honor seemed to be similar to that group of people. Brett's comprehension meant that Yi Hua had successfully transformed into a crafty old fox. I wonder if this is a bad thing or a good thing. At this moment, Yuan Long and Jing Long were also very vigilant. They did not show themselves because they wanted to see the result. When the dust settled, they saw the result they had hoped to see. The group of people were lying on the ground in disorder, their bodies covered in blood, and only the man was still breathing. The two of them were relieved and instantly appeared at the scene. Brother, I told you it's very easy, but you still don't believe me. Jing Long grinned, appearing to be extremely relaxed, and casually took a look at Yi Hua, who was standing unsteadily. Yuan Long did not say anything and sighed deeply. This time, his target was only this man, but other innocent people had died. He was a little sad. Yi Hua gasped for breath, and blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. The blood was sour and sweet at the same time. Who are you guys? Jing Long smiled and said, We are from the imperial capital. We are here to take the Cosmos Divine Tool under the orders of His Excellency the President. If you are sensible, hand it over. So that's how it is, it was arranged by this world's president. Doesn't that mean that I have already formed a grudge with that president? Qinya, Baiji, what happened to you guys? After Yi Hua obtained what he wanted to know, he immediately hugged onto his 2 deceased wives, and he even hugged onto Dong Huangli as well. The pitiful Brett was lying on the side, and no one cared about him. Of course, there was also Shi Tingting. You all want the Cosmos artifact, but why did you all want to kill my woman? Yi Hua questioned gravely. Jing Long said indifferently, Sorry, this is collateral damage. It can't be avoided. Ali, wake up. Papa hasn't found a boyfriend for you yet. Puff. Dong Huangli laughed out loud. Yi Hua went into a slight daze. I feel that my daughter actually laughed out loud just a moment ago. Hearing that their daughters started laughing, Qinya and Dong Huang Baiji started laughing as well. Yi Hua, can you stop joking around? It's one thing for you to be a matchmaker for your subordinate, but you are also not letting your daughter off. Yi Hua was very helpless. Both my wife and daughter have already laughed out loud, so how am I supposed to continue acting? Yi Hua immediately stood up, took out a stick of cigarette, and lit it up. Brett also got up helplessly. He even licked the blood at the corner of his mouth. It tasted pretty good. Shi Tingting also stood up. Mr. was able to withstand such a powerful attack. He was indeed very powerful. Daddy, I'm sorry, Ali just can't control myself. After saying that, Dong Huangli started laughing again. Daddy actually said that he will find a boyfriend for me. Daddy is so funny. Meanwhile, Qinya and Dong Huang Baiji were also leaning on their husband's side and laughing out loud. So it turns out that you have already decided to find a boyfriend for Ali. While the whole family was laughing, Yuan Long and Jing Long's smiles froze on their faces. That was his full strength attack just now, but they seemed to be fine and were still laughing there. From what the little girl said, it seemed like she was just acting. If she hadn't laughed, she would have thought it was real. This fully reflected Yi Hua's acting skills. He managed to deceive the 2 brothers. Why are the 2 of you completely fine? Jing Long mumbled. This is definitely impossible. Why are we completely fine? Yi Hua said coldly, What do you think should have happened to us? Shouldn't the 2 of you be dead? Jing Long's brain was already unable to think normally. This is too fake. This is just like fighting a boss in a game. The boss is clearly dead, but then suddenly came back to life. I can only tell you that even though your thoughts are too beautiful, the reality is very cruel. This is impossible. You are only a low-level martial master. It is impossible for you to survive under the attack of the 2 of us. Jing Long was still unwilling to believe the truth. This is unscientific, you know? Yi Hua sneered. Who told you that we are only at the level of martial master? After speaking, Yi Hua released a bit of his aura, and a terrifying pressure immediately enveloped the 2 brothers. Beads of sweat immediately appeared on their foreheads. Both of their legs were trembling, and shock could be seen on their faces. This isn't a martial master. This isn't a martial king either. This is even a martial emperor. Or a martial spirit. Or even a higher-level martial overlord. The intelligence is wrong. Jing Long, quickly leave. Yuan Long blocked in front of his younger brother and shouted out. The enemy is too strong. Even if I don't use a Cosmos artifact, I will still be able to easily kill them. Jing Long didn't run away and shouted out, If we leave together. If we stay together. Are you stupid? You are going to get married next month, and I am just a single person. Quickly leave. Yuan Long shouted out angrily. Even at this time, you are still not sensible. Right now, every single person that can run away counts. Brother, quickly leave. Yuan Long slapped onto Jing Long's chest, and the latter flew out and stabilized himself in the air. Quickly leave. Go back and tell teacher. Yuan Long shouted out once again. Jing Long looked at his brother's tall back view, and a struggling expression appeared on his face. Without thinking any more, he turned around and ran away. If you have any problems, then come at me. Seeing that his younger brother had already escaped, Yuan Long let out a breath of relief. Soon after, he looked towards Yi Hua and the others and let out a powerful aura. However, this aura didn't make Yi Hua and the others feel anything. A golden jade bow appeared in Brett's left hand. The entire bow was as tall as a person, and it looked very uncoordinated. When Brett's right hand was placed on the bow, a golden-colored glass arrow suddenly appeared out of nowhere. The golden-colored glass arrow emitted out a terrifying pressure, and this pressure caused Yuan Long to be unable to move at all. Yuan Long could only watch foolishly as Brett pulled the bow. Brett's fingers loosened, and the golden-colored glass arrow pierced through the air. Along with an ear-piercing sonic boom, the golden-colored glass arrow drew a beautiful arc in the air, and from afar, the golden-colored glass arrow looked like a shooting star. No! Yuan Long turned his head around and looked towards the golden-colored glass arrow. While carrying the aura of death, the golden-colored glass arrow chased after his younger brother. Meanwhile, Jing Long, who was running away, felt a terrifying aura coming from behind him. When he slowly turned his head around to take a look, he saw that the golden-colored glass arrow's speed wasn't something that he could escape from. At this moment, in Jing Long's mind, his teacher, his big brother that he had lived with since young, and his wife that he was about to marry appeared in his mind. Unwilling to die. Unwilling to die just like this. At this moment, Jing Long broke through. However, the golden-colored glass arrow mercilessly struck onto its target, and no matter how Yi Hua broke through, it would be of no use. It was as if golden fireworks had been released in the air, dazzling and dazzling. Yi Hua looked at Yuan Long, who was in front of him, and said faintly, "When the two of you had this kind of terrifying thought, your ending had already been decided. If there is a next life, don't ever have this kind of terrifying thought, because this kind of thought is extremely harmful." Chapter 473. Donghuang Baiji summoned out her sword. With a cold gaze, she casually waved her sword. A purple sword energy slashed towards Yuan Long. The outcome was already decided. Yuan Long fell to the ground, filled with regret. Yi Hua carried his daughter and walked forward while mumbling, "It is fortunate that there is a place to sleep. Shi Tingting, did you buy insurance for this place?" Shi Tingting was speechless. "I was just joking, don't be nervous," Yi Hua said faintly, and the latter let out a sigh of relief. "Seems like I have to bring insurance for everything in the future." Pausing for a moment, Yi Hua took out his flowing lotus blade and swung it upwards. Shi Tingting was shocked by this action. "Sir, can you not use this method of throwing rubbish? My heart hurts." The flowing lotus blade wasn't flung away by Yi Hua. It was just floating above the manor and emitting out the aura that it should have. It seemed like it was summoning all of the experts to come and snatch the flowing lotus blade. At this moment, everyone in the entire Long and city felt the aura emitted by the Cosmos God equipment. All of them looked towards the same direction, and their gazes were filled with astonishment. There really was one. When the people near the manor saw the blade floating in the air, their bodies involuntarily trembled. A Cosmos God artifact that was right in front of them. It was as if it was within reach. Very soon, a large group of people appeared near the manor. They raised their heads and looked at the Cosmos God artifact in the sky. Greed appeared in their eyes. There were also a large number of aircrafts in the surroundings. It seemed that there were also news reporters. The appearance of a Cosmos Divine artifact instantly swept across the entire blue blaze star. After all, in this civilized world, the speed of transmission was quite fast. Many people could no longer sit still. Even if they did not fight over it, they still wanted to witness the brilliance of a Cosmos God artifact. While smoking, Yi Hua stood beside the window and stared at the spicy chicken in the sky. In just a short while, so many people have already gathered here, This is truly a rare sight. What are you thinking about? Dong Huang Baiji, who was wearing light pajamas, lightly hugged onto Yi Hua's tiger body and asked tenderly. Yi Hua closed the window and drew the curtains, then said with a slight smile, "It's nothing, I'm just curious how long they are going to look for." "Don't worry about them, you should worry about me first," Dong Huang Baiji said with a red face. Yi Hua hugged onto Baiji's sexy body. "Baiji, you are becoming more and more enchanting. If you know, then hurry up and come, how impatient. I shall grant you unparalleled happiness." Dong Huang Baiji, even when they were husband and wife, they still had to act cool. In the imperial capital, President Felipe once again called for an emergency meeting. It was the same people as before. "Wu Xiangwen, what's going on? How did it get exposed?" Felisa's pale face was filled with gloom. Originally, she had only wanted to deal with it secretly, but now, everyone knew. Wu Xiangwen said in a deep voice, "Your Excellency, my 2 disciples have failed their mission. He's been sacrificed." Ji Yang said lightly, "I was too careless. You shouldn't have sent them. You should have gone yourself." The other 3 martial kings also nodded their heads. How could they leave such an important task to others? It was not right. "Bureau Chief Ji, I should say something about you. Because of your wrong information, 2 of my disciples were sacrificed. How should we settle this debt?" Ji Yang's expression changed. "Wu Xiangwen, you were the one who accepted the mission. Now that you haven't completed it, you're causing trouble for me? Alright, stop quarreling," Felisa shouted angrily. They were still quarreling at this time. "What good suggestions do you have? Tell me," Gao Han said in a deep voice. "Your Excellency, I think we should wait and see. Once the Cosmos God tool appears, many people will think of ways to snatch it. We should just sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight." "Your Excellency, I also think so," Cheng Yen echoed. Felisa asked in a low voice, "Then what if it is really snatched?" The 3 martial kings stood up and said respectfully, "We are willing to snatch it back for your Excellency." With these words from the 3 martial kings, Felisa felt a lot more at ease. "Then it's decided. Let's see the situation first before making a decision." "Yes." Although it was late at night, the entire Long and city was brightly lit. Especially around the manor, there was a sea of people. There was not even a place to stand. They wanted to get closer, but they did not dare to. Furthermore, the number of people was still increasing. If the aircraft in the sky was slightly careless, there would be the risk of rear-end collision. Although there were a lot of people, no one dared to move because they did not know what the consequences would be. Suddenly, a luxurious aircraft was slowly approaching the Cosmos God tool. "Young master, I think it's better to forget about it. Everyone is watching." In the aircraft, an old man advised earnestly. The young man sitting at the back said indifferently, "That's because they are idiots. Not snatching the Cosmos God tool, they only know how to watch. This kind of thing depends on who has the guts." "Young master, please reconsider." "No need to reconsider, just directly go and take it." The speed of the aircraft increased by a lot. Everyone in the sky and on the ground looked at the aircraft. If they really succeeded, their intestines would turn green with regret. As the distance got closer and closer, everyone held their breath. Would they succeed? Obviously not. The ground below the Cosmos God tool began to squirm. Soon after, countless tree roots emerged. They were incomparably thick and sturdy. "What the hell is that?" "I don't know. I heard that Cosmos God tools are all protected by monsters." "Then what kind of monster is that? I have never heard of it before." Countless tree roots whizzed towards the sky, all of them aimed at the aircraft. And the aircraft also discovered the abnormality. It seems like it wants to escape immediately. Furthermore, it released an energy barrier. Although it is only a domestic aircraft, this energy barrier can withstand normal attacks. However, this was definitely not an ordinary attack. Countless thick tree roots mercilessly stabbed into the aircraft, piercing through it. This was not the end. Other tree roots also rushed to stab into the aircraft. The aircraft was like a piece of beef that was pierced by countless toothpicks. The scene was shocking. The tree roots seemed to be not satisfied with stabbing into the aircraft. Immediately after, they exerted force and tore the aircraft apart, revealing the internal structure of the aircraft. The two halves of the aircraft finally exploded. In the night sky, it was extremely beautiful. Of course, there was also a little bit of horror. The tree roots did not continue to search for their target. Many people heaved a sigh of relief. They even returned underground, as if nothing had happened. With such a situation happening, no one was able to catch up. All the aircraft retreated 1 kilometer to avoid being accidentally damaged. However, this was a Cosmos God tool. Many people would risk their lives to snatch it. Even if they had to risk their lives, they would not hesitate. Various powers held an emergency meeting. How should they snatch this Cosmos God tool? Although they were in the sky, there was a monster watching them from underground. Chapter 474. After obtaining this Cosmos God artifact, I will be able to create my own country and become the president of my own country. High risk means high reward. The light of dawn illuminated the entire land. A lot of people didn't sleep at all, and there were even more people who were quietly rushing over. Suddenly, a strange thing happened. Look at the house in the manor, it seems like someone came out. That's right, a man and a child. It was precisely Yi Hua and Ali. Dong Huangli woke up her father early in the morning. What she didn't know was that Yi Hua had worked overtime last night, and before he even slept for 2 hours, he was already woken up by his daughter. However, he had already promised his daughter yesterday that he would wake up early in the morning with his daughter. As a father, I shouldn't lie. That's why this scene happened. Everyone looked at the father and daughter running around the manor. However, they discovered a problem. Why didn't that monster appear? We are running right below the manor. Why is this happening? Daddy, there are a lot of people? Regarding this kind of running, Dong Huangli didn't really care much about it. Yi Hua yawned. The Empress's demands are getting higher and higher, and she even wants to guarantee the quality of the food. And they are all here to snatch the trash. Dong Huangli pouted her mouth. What's there to snatch the trash? This is so strange. That's because in our eyes, the trash is a supreme treasure in their eyes. Yi Hua explained carefully. There are indeed a lot of people here. Daddy, do you have a lot of trash like this? Dong Huangli asked naively. That's right, I have a lot of trash. Dong Huangli suddenly came to a realization. So, Daddy is a trash collector. Yi Hua. Everyone in Blue Blaze Planet was looking at the father and daughter pair through the video broadcast. The father and daughter pair had a smile on their face, seemingly not afraid of anything, and they were even chatting with each other. Just what kind of father and daughter pair is this? Suddenly, industrial aircrafts flew over one after another. All of the aircrafts were carrying soil, and the soil filled up the huge hole in the manor. Why aren't the aircrafts attacking? Everyone was confused. Furthermore, a group of robots appeared, laid a layer of fresh grass on the ground, and then left safely. This is too strange, to the point that no one is able to understand. What was even more despairing was yet to come. A few robots brought out chairs and dishes, and a woman dressed as a housekeeper waited respectfully at the side. Then, 2 elegant women and a child walked out. The jogging father and daughter also ran over. They were eating breakfast on the monster's head. Who gave them the guts? Where's the monster? Quickly come out and destroy them. They're too arrogant, actually eating breakfast on top of your head. However, he left the 2 women behind. It was the first time that he had seen such beautiful women. Just a glance at them was enough to trigger a physiological reaction, especially the cold and arrogant beauty. She had a joyful smile on her face, as if she had obtained great satisfaction. It was still the same 6 people in the conference room in the imperial capital. Too savage, completely not putting me in his eyes. Felisa slammed the table and shouted. He already knew what happened last night clearly. Your Excellency President, please calm your anger. He is a man who possesses a Cosmos divine artifact. His strength is definitely extraordinary. From the results of last night's battle, it can be seen that ordinary people are not a match for him at all. Ji Yang voiced out his opinion. It was quite pertinent. Then what do you guys think we should do? This is simply a slap to my face. It's a form of contempt for the entire Federation. Felisa shouted in a low voice. He was so angry that his fair skin had turned red. Nobody said anything. It was obvious that they weren't completely confident either. This man's strength was too strange. If they rashly went over, they would definitely be sending themselves to their deaths. Your Excellency, why don't we try to rope him in? Zhuang Hong suggested. Felisa's eyes widened as he said in disbelief, You want me, the president of the Federation, to rope in a traveler? If we don't choose to rope him in, then we'll have to fight. Your Excellency wants you to consider this carefully, Gao Han said in a low voice. This was the worst choice. Felisa's gaze turned cold. Does the Da Alliance fear a traveler? Which one of you is willing to fight for me? Your Excellency, please reconsider. Yes, Your Excellency. I hope that Your Excellency will reconsider before acting. These kinds of words simply couldn't stop Felisa from going berserk. The man in the video had a leisurely attitude. He simply didn't care about him at all. Mobilize all the Federation's combat power. I'll personally command. I'll let him know that the Federation's strength isn't something that an outsider like him dares to slander. The 5 people that were seated didn't have any way to stop him. The president's words were the heavens. They could only obey. Gathering all the combat power to intimidate others, this was something that had never happened before in the history of the Federation's peace. As for Felisa, he had also brought his own Cosmos Divine artifact, the Warhammer. Honestly speaking, Felisa didn't like this universal divine weapon. When he held it, it was like a blacksmith. It didn't conform to the demeanor that a president should have. Holding a hammer to fight with others and holding a glittering treasured sword were 2 completely different concepts. Following the president's orders, all the Federation's ground forces started to gather and prepared to kill their way towards Long and City. Furthermore, there were also flying troops and other types of troops. There were even 1,000 troops formed by martial masters. They would definitely be able to sweep through any planet. Such a huge troop was only dealing with a single person and a single blade. This could be considered as giving enough face. However, Yihua still didn't know about the Empire's movements. If he knew, perhaps he would be a little excited. Shi Tingting, we should be on television, right? Yihua asked curiously. Shi Tingting said respectfully, Yes, sir. Those black spots are blocking my sunlight. Qinya, what do you think we should do? Qinya sighed helplessly. Do you still not know what your husband means? I'll listen to you, all right? Lin Sanjiu tried to sound him out. Qinya, this is how my good wife should be. You finally know how to think about me. Yihua lightly held onto Qinya's hand and stealthily removed the seal on the storage ring. Qinya laughed. Following such a husband, I have already resigned myself to my fate. If I really have to go to hell, I will accompany him to hell. Qinya, give it a try by snapping your fingers. A naughty smile could be seen on the corner of Yihua's mouth. Puzzled, Qinya put down her knife and fork. Snap my fingers? Be a little gentler. I'm afraid you can't control it well. Yihua warned them not to make everyone in Blue Blaze Planet disappear with just a snap of his fingers. Qinya did not know what was going on, but she still followed her husband's instructions and stretched out her right hand. Her tender thumb and middle finger touched together. At this moment, everyone was looking at Qinya's actions, and they were completely unable to understand what she was trying to do. Pa! Chapter 475. Everyone was stupefied. I can see it. A small ball of light appeared between those delicate fingers. The ball of light was continuously expanding, and it looked just like a crystal bubble. Everyone was attracted by this bubble. It was so beautiful and dazzling. Even Qinya herself was attracted by the bubble. However, the beauty of the bubble was terrifying. When the bubble touched the first aircraft, the latter gradually disappeared. It was the kind of aircraft that disappeared along with the expansion of the bubble. This was an aircraft that disappeared without any reason. Immediately after, more and more aircraft appeared, and by the time everyone reacted, it was already too late. The crystal bubble swallowed up all the flying devices in the sky. The crowd that was relatively close to the bubble had all disappeared, not even a single piece of the aircraft was left. Pow! Yihua picked up a knife and fork and threw it out, piercing the bubble. If this goes on, all of the people on this planet will disappear. After all, I, the Supreme Overlord, am not the kind of person who would willfully kill the innocent. I am a man with principles. The sunlight smoothly shone down, lighting up Qin Ya's astonished face. Qin Ya didn't expect that a snap of her fingers would actually cause such damage. How can this be? Looking at the colorful ring on her finger, then looking at Yihua, she seemed to have understood. This bastard actually hid it from me. Donghuang Baiji, who was at the side, looked at Qin Ya's gaze. That ring is so beautiful. In actuality, Donghuang Baiji's eyes were already red. Why does Qin Ya have a ring, but I don't? Cough, cough, cough. Donghuang Baiji held onto her chin and coughed lightly, then waved her hand. Yihua asked concernedly, Baiji, did you catch a cold? This idiot. Yihua, do you think that I should have more things on my hands? Donghuang Baiji stretched out her pure white and tender hands and said. Yihua finally understood. In actuality, he had already prepared the ring long ago. He definitely wouldn't be biased towards anyone. When Donghuang Baiji saw the ring on Yihua's hand, she immediately became bashful. She didn't expect that Yihua would really prepare the ring. Hands. Yihua said faintly. I. Donghuang Baiji's face immediately became red. Shi Tingting, who was at the side, was also moved. Qin Ya teased, Baiji, didn't you always complain that you don't have a ring? Why are you suddenly afraid now? That's right, Mommy, Daddy is going to give you a wedding ring, Donghuang Li said happily. The Empress lowered her head slightly, then stretched out her hand. Yihua held onto Empress's fair and small hand, then wore the ring on her ring finger. This ring should be considered as me trapping Empress, right? When Donghuang Baiji looked at the dazzling ring on her ring finger, a smile of happiness appeared on her beautiful face. It was just that there was no one to witness it. Daddy, Donghuang Li also stretched out her small meaty hand. It was clear that she also wanted a hand. Yihua patted onto his daughter's head. In the future, Ali will receive a ring, but it won't be given by Daddy. Sniff, 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 Ali wants Daddy to give it to you, Donghuang Li said. Yihua took out a golden white bracelet, and Donghuang Li was immediately mesmerized by the bracelet, because the bracelet was even shining with stars, and it was so beautiful. Do you like it? Yihua said with a slight smile. Donghuang Li carefully held the paper in her hand, and Ali likes it. Qin Ya and Donghuang Baiji clearly liked the bracelet too, but they were too embarrassed to accept it. Could it be that I have to fight with my daughter over the bracelet? How embarrassing would that be? When the time comes, I can blackmail Yihua on the bed. There are definitely a lot of good things on Yihua's body, and yet he is actually hiding them and not giving them to his wife. He is truly stingy. Yihua took out another golden token and tossed it over to Shi Tingting. The latter caught the token hurriedly and almost dropped it onto the ground. Use it when you are in a life and death crisis. Yihua warned. Shi Tingting was terrified, then said hurriedly, Thank you, mister. Looking at the golden token in her hand, Shi Tingting took in a breath. The token that mister is giving me is definitely not an ordinary item. Also, I already said that this token can only be used when I am in a life and death situation, which means that it is a life-saving talisman. However, this also means that mister won't be staying here for a long period of time and will have to leave. Thinking up to here, Shi Tingting felt a bit disappointed. After giving out the rewards, Yihua continued to enjoy the peaceful breakfast. The breakfast had become much quieter. But the faces of the people who escaped were filled with fear. Without any regard for their lives, the people who escaped took all kinds of transportation and left this demonic city. And everyone in the world also saw that bubble. When they saw how the bubble made the people disappear, they were all incomparably shocked. If this kind of big move was used painstakingly, everyone would still be able to imagine it. However, this kind of move was actually done by a woman with a light snap of her fingers. This kind of result was unacceptable. With just that light snap of her fingers, everyone died, and those who didn't die were almost scared half to death. This is simply not a strength that a human should have. Just what kind of family is this? Those who originally planned to turn bicycles into motorcycles, but after seeing this kind of result, they didn't dare to have this kind of thought anymore. Because, without even a bit of hope, what's the point of doing this? There's no point at all. I might as well go back and hug a woman and play comfortably. Right when everyone was frantically escaping from the city, the sky flashed. Blinding. Everyone raised up their hands and covered their eyes. What a dazzling light. When everyone saw who it was that came, everyone stopped their footsteps. That was the Federation's war flag, and among the war flag, there was even a golden war flag, which meant that the Federation's president had also come. The people who escaped started cheering. The Federation did not abandon them, and after receiving the news, they immediately came to provide reinforcements. As expected of the president. Formidable. A row of battleships appeared in the sky. The battleships were arranged neatly, and on top of the battleships, there were 1,000 Marshall Master powerhouses. My God, that is the president's self-defense force. 1,000 Marshall Master powerhouses, so powerful. There are also various types of soldiers. This is too powerful. There are also 3 Marshall King powerhouses. My God. My God. I actually saw 3 Marshall King powerhouses. I am so excited. The battleships slowly flew towards the manor. Those who were originally planning to escape ran back to the manor, wanting to see how the president is going to teach that arrogant man a lesson. Yi Hua, who was currently eating his breakfast, turned his head and looked towards a place not far away. That huge battleship seemed to be right in front of his eyes, and a supreme aura was coming towards him. This caused Yi Hua to go into a slight daze. Such a big scene. Mr. This is the Federation's president. The president is here. Shi Tingting was about to collapse. After following her mister for a few days, everything that she knew was completely overturned. So money is so easy to earn, the divine tool of the universe has become trash, and killing someone only takes a snap of the fingers to destroy their worldview. Yi Hua said faintly, so it's the president. This pretentiousness is not bad, but it still can't compare to me. Daddy, this scene is so spectacular. Dong Huangli mumbled. Yi Hua took a look at his 2 wives, and astonishment could be seen on his face as well. Chapter 476. The battleship stopped above the entrance of the manor. A blue laser shot out from the bottom of the battleship, flattening the entire ground. Soon after, the battleship slowly descended, and the cabin door was opened. Tap tap tap. A series of sonorous and powerful footsteps rang out, and the battleship that had a golden flag on it actually started playing a BGM. Alright, this is the Federation's marching song. It is indeed very exciting. Especially when it is accompanied by the footsteps of the soldiers, it is simply invincible. However, the surrounding people who were watching the show also started singing along with the BGM. They were definitely supporting the president. When all of the soldiers were in position, the only floating battleship also slowly descended, but it did not completely descend. It was still around 100 meters away from the ground. Suddenly, a red carpet was spread out, and on both sides of the red carpet, the Federation's flag was raised high. At this moment, the cabin door slowly opened. A golden ladder descended onto the ground, and when Felisa's figure appeared, the BGM stopped playing. The president has arrived. Stop God's punishment. All of the soldiers began shouting in unison. The president has arrived. Stop God's punishment. The president has arrived. Stop God's punishment. Felisa, who was wearing a set of golden armor, could be seen slowly walking down the stairs. Just that, his hand was holding onto a war hammer, and he looked just like a blacksmith. Behind Felisa were the 3 Marshall Kings, as well as the chief of the Space-Time Directorate, Ji Yang, and the old man Wu Xiangwen. New reporters rushed over one after another, sending this scene to all over the world. This is the prestige that came from His Excellency the President. That majestic figure, that calm face, that firm muscles that are as delicious as sandwiches, and that dignified footstep that he took, made people feel convinced. The President is mighty. The President is mighty. The President is mighty. The surrounding people started cheering loudly. The President is too awesome. Just this way of appearing is enough to suppress the other party. Look at what they have, a broken-down house, and then nothing else. Only that universe artifact above their head is able to enter their eyes. Of course, there are also those two beauties. For that child to be able to become a child bride, she will definitely be very beautiful when she grows up. Yi Hua, are you not going to take action? Qinya said hurriedly. Don't you like to act cool normally? Right now, the other party is already acting cool in front of me. Why aren't you reacting? Dong Huang Baiji said, Yi Hua, we cannot lose to others. We must make a grand entrance. Daddy, call Dragon over. Dong Huangli only wanted to say those 3 dragons. However, would he use the same extravagance twice? That's impossible. It can't serve as a foil to my heroic bearing. Felisa raised his hands high, and the entire place fell silent. The atmosphere was very heavy, and all the soldiers were staring at the family. That kid was still drinking. She actually didn't know fear. But on second thought, kids are just too naive. What do they know? Felisa waited for a moment. She didn't expect to be ignored. She signaled Ji Yang, who was beside her, to say something. Ji Yang walked out respectfully. Who are you? Yi Hua slowly stood up. Everyone became alert for a moment. They were clearly a bit frightened by Yi Hua. Just when everyone was feeling puzzled, Yi Hua spread out his hands. The few of them began to ascend slowly. Yi Hua looked down at the crowd and said faintly, You are asking me who I am? I am someone that all of you cannot afford to offend. Right after Yi Hua finished speaking, a purple cloud slowly floated over and enveloped Yi Hua and the others. Everyone was baffled. Was he throwing a smoke bomb and preparing to escape? Where was he? What the hell is he doing? Felisa was also very puzzled and asked gravely, What technique is this? The 5 people at the back shook their heads. I have never seen such a technique before. Suddenly, there was a change in the purple mist. Slowly descending from the sky, it actually formed a flight of stairs. My God, those are clouds. Why does it feel like they have materialized? Furthermore, I have never seen such a beautiful flight of stairs before. The flight of stairs seemed to be red and gold at the same time, giving off a very strong illusion. As the flight of stairs materialized, the cloud on top of the flight of stairs also started materializing. A complicated and strange background appeared in everyone's eyes. There were no divine beasts, nor were there any ghosts, but it gave off a very oppressive feeling. Finally, an exquisite and majestic throne appeared, and the man who was sitting on it just now was sitting on it. 2 women were standing beside the throne, and there were also 2 children and Shi Tingting who was standing slightly further away. Looking at such a scene, everyone swallowed their saliva. This scene is simply too spectacular. The width of that flight of stairs is even wider than all of the Federation soldiers, and the entire platform above the flight of stairs is several kilometers long, even wider than the President's battleship fleet. Dong, dong, dong. A series of metal clanking sounds suddenly rang out, immediately resounding throughout the sky. Suddenly, a group of people appeared on both sides of the platform above the flight of stairs. This was a group of warriors dressed in colorful armor, walking over with a majestic aura. However, no one knew where these warriors came from. The top of the platform on both sides were empty, but these warriors all walked out from there. Yi Hua felt that it was a bit monotonous. There should be some background music. I want something more intense, the kind that sounds like a fight. Yi Hua actually knew of a song. Superstars in Troubled Times. Hearing such a song, if one were to see a hoodlum on the road, they would immediately King gang up on them. Suddenly, a burst of music rang out between heaven and earth. When the music rang out, some people couldn't help but shake their heads along with the rhythm. The reporters who were following and filming in the sky were all dumbfounded. Did this man install a loudspeaker in the sky? It's as if the entire world can hear it. Adding that shocking scene, it was as if their entire body was boiling. Everyone who was watching the video had this kind of feeling, completely unaware that this was a shocking scene of the enemy. Furthermore, they all had the urge to go to the streets and fight. Tens of thousands of colorful warriors walked down the flight of stairs in an orderly manner and then spread out. Every step they took was so majestic, causing people to blush with shame. After a long time, the colorful warriors couldn't stand anymore and finally stopped. However, looking down from the sky, the number of colorful warriors was at least 5 times that of the Federation. Furthermore, because they were all dressed in the same uniform, they looked even more intimidating. Just by standing there, people would tremble with fear, and they would even have the terrifying thought of running away without fighting. Felisa was also stupefied by the situation in front of him. Compared to him, my side is just like playing house. However, if you think that it's over, you are gravely mistaken. A dragon roar suddenly rang out from the top of the platform on both sides. This dragon roar shook the heaven and earth and made ghosts and gods cry. The dragon had not appeared yet, and its might was already surging over like seawater, causing people to be unable to breathe. Finally, the dragon's head appeared. Everyone was shocked by the huge dragon's head, and they felt that it would be able to bite a warship into pieces with a single bite. Furthermore, it was a huge dragon with antlers and a snake's body. When the dragon's entire body hovered in the sky, that imposing figure caused everyone to swallow their saliva, and their eyes were filled with fear. This is a divine dragon. Yihua stood up and spread out his hands again. All of the colorful warriors shouted out in unison, "Be afraid! Be afraid under the power of the Supreme Overlord." Chapter 477. Everyone in Cerulean Planet was stupefied. Looking at the scene in front of them and the dragon roar that was ringing beside their ears, they were completely at a loss. Just who are they? Who can tell us? Just what kind of people were they? The president's acting is already very awesome. He is already very imposing. The other party clearly only has a few people. Why did so many warriors suddenly appear? If it was only warriors, then forget it. Furthermore, there were even 2 enormous dragons that appeared. A feeling of powerlessness emerged from the bottom of their hearts. In addition to the dragon's final roar, everyone's line of defense was completely crushed. That was a kind of worship towards the unparalleled power. No one was able to raise any thoughts of resisting. Everyone in Long End City was able to see the enormous dragons that were hovering in the sky. Their entire bodies were unable to move. They didn't even have the strength to speak. As the most advanced president of Cerulean Planet and even the entire Milky Way galaxy. Right now, Felisa was already shocked by the scene in front of him. His mouth was slightly opened. Even the 3 martial kings behind him were the same. They had entered into a daze. Compared to him, what I am doing is really just a small show. Look at the other people's warriors. Their armors are all emitting out rainbow-colored radiance that can simply blind people's eyes. And those 2 enormous dragons are really unable to resist at all. Right now, looking at the cosmos artifact that is floating in the middle, it seems like it is really not that important anymore. Yihua was very satisfied with this kind of show. I feel that it is a lot more powerful than the last time. However, today is the first time that I am able to act cool in front of my wife. I feel very good in my heart. If not for taking into consideration my face, I would really want to turn around and see what kind of expression they have. Yihua's guess was right. Although Qingya's expression was calm, she was very shocked in her heart. I didn't expect that my husband would have such an ability. Her understanding of Yihua increased by another level. No wonder he likes to act cool so much, so it turns out that he has the qualifications to act cool. Furthermore, this feeling is really not bad. I feel very proud. The person who is sitting here is my husband. My heart is filled with happiness. Donghuang Baiji's heart was also not calm. I am also used to seeing big scenes, but I have never seen such a big scene before. Especially the rainbow-colored dragon that is at the side. Its body is really too big. The other party's warship looks just like a toothpick, thin and small. Dong Huangbaiji was very happy and also very excited towards her husband being able to possess such strength. The luckiest thing in her life was that day. At that time, she walked into that leisure bar, had sex with Yi Hua, and gave birth to her precious daughter, Ali. Although there were some small misunderstandings in between, but all of those misunderstandings were resolved, and what was left was only satisfaction. Dong Huangli had seen such a scene last time. Therefore, after being shocked for a moment, she became indifferent. Meanwhile, Brett's expression didn't change at all, as if he had seen his honor's expression very often. This is merely one of the ways his honor acts cool, and his honor has hundreds of ways to act cool. As a local, Shidingting's mind was in a mess. Actually, when the rainbow-colored warrior appeared, she felt a little dizzy. When she saw the mystical dragon, she could no longer think normally. No wonder Mr.'s family was not afraid of anything. It turned out that they had such strength. It was too terrifying, too despairing. Upon receiving his honor's order, Brett slowly took a few steps forward and shouted out coldly, "Kneel!" A terrifying pressure came out from Brett's mouth, and it felt as if the air was being pressed down by a mountain. Everyone, including the president, everyone knelt onto the ground with a plop. Both of their knees smashed open a small hole on the ground, and both of their hands were propping themselves onto the ground. Their faces were filled with fear, and their eyes were wide open. This kind of scene was suffocating, and everyone in Blue Blaze Planet was able to see it clearly. Their president knelt onto the ground. The Federation's president knelt onto the ground. The three martial kings who were revered by tens of thousands of people also knelt onto the ground. Even the self-defense forces of the president also knelt onto the ground. All of them surrendered under the power of that cold-faced man. The sky of Blue Blaze Planet is going to change. Felipe looked at the grass in disbelief. I am the president of Blue Blaze Planet, and yet, I actually knelt onto the ground with just a single sentence. Furthermore, I knelt onto the ground towards the enemy. This is a huge humiliation. If this is seen by my own people, where would the prestige of the president go? The huge pressure caused everyone who was present to tremble. Soon after, Brett shouted out, "Rise?" Along with Brett's shout, everyone felt as if the mountain on their back had disappeared, and their breathing became smoother. "President! Your Excellency President! President!" The three martial kings who were at the side all stood up. Seeing that the president was still lying on the ground, they hurriedly went forward and helped the president up. Felipe's eyes were bright red, seemingly like he wanted to get angry, but he didn't dare to get angry. This caused everyone who was watching to become anxious. "President, why don't you get angry? The other party has already come to bully us." Those who were not present at the scene were definitely thinking like this, but their president was present at the scene. Feeling the pressure that came from the divine dragon, they really didn't dare to get angry. Yi Hua stretched out his hand. This action of his caused everyone to be startled. What is this man planning to do? Is he planning to kill someone? Does the president have the ability to resist? Obviously not. However, the camera was focused on the Cosmos artifact at the center. The body of the Cosmos artifact could be seen slowly distorting, just like a piece of iron that was revolving. My God, that man is actually planning to destroy a Cosmos artifact in front of everyone. That is a Cosmos artifact. Furthermore, it is a long blade that is emitting out green light. Just by looking at its appearance, it is even better than the hammer that the president is using. Bang! The Cosmos artifact finally couldn't endure anymore and self-destructed. Immediately, an enormous airwave was produced, engulfing the entire city. The airwave was like a level 10 hurricane. However, for such a high-tech city, a level 10 hurricane was nothing much. The Cosmos artifact could be seen falling onto the ground in two pieces. Looking at this scene, a lot of people couldn't take it anymore. Is this how you are going to waste a Cosmos artifact? Even if you don't want it, there are still a lot of people who would want it. Felipe and the other martial kings weren't thinking about this, they were thinking about something. This man is actually able to easily destroy a Cosmos artifact from afar. Why does such a power exist? Yi Hua said gravely, "Don't panic, I still have a lot of trash weapons like this. I just want to let you all know one thing, the things that you all view as treasures are all trash in my eyes." No one had ever seen such an arrogant man before, but what was undeniable was that he had the qualifications to be arrogant, and his arrogance caused people to be unable to resist, causing people to hover on the edge of fear. "Just what do you want?" Felipe shouted out loudly. "What I hate the most is when there are people who act cool in front of me, and you are one of them." Yi Hua's tone caused Felipe's heart to palpitate madly. This was the feeling of an act-tough king meeting another act-tough king, and then being slapped in the face by the powerful act-tough king. Chapter 478. I am the dignified president of the Federation, and today, I lost beyond recognition, I lost cleanly, I lost to the point where there isn't even a little bit of room to recover. Why would such a man appear? Why is this man so perfect? Even if he is just sitting there, I feel that he is a few levels higher than me. Why is that stalwart figure so outstanding? Every single word pierced deeply into my heart, causing me to feel endless pain. Your Excellency President, we cannot be so passive. Wu Xiangwen, who was at the side, said gravely. How can the entire Federation lower its head in front of an outsider? That is absolutely not allowed. There must be someone who stands out. Felisa shook his head and said powerlessly, "Is there a better way? The other party is too strong, there is no need to make unnecessary sacrifices. Your Excellency President, our Blue Blaze planet has never lost, and there is no precedent of surrendering without a fight." Wu Xiangwen said gravely, his gaze deeply looking at the man who was sitting on the throne. Felisa took a deep breath. "Then, which one of you is willing to fight for the Federation?" The three martial kings became silent. Space Administration's Chief Jiang also became silent. Meanwhile, Wu Xiangwen cupped his hands and said, "Your Excellency President, please allow this old man to atone for his crimes. It just so happens that I can also take revenge for my disciple." Felisa was very gratified. Only Wu Xiangwen is reliable at the crucial moment. The others don't even dare to, not to mention my own self-defense forces, they are currently trembling in fear. Elder Wu, you are the one who should receive the respect of everyone in Blue Blaze Planet. Felisa said gravely. At such a crucial moment, only the older generation stood out. How worthy of respect. However, it is precisely these people who have always been low profile. The world only knows of the three martial kings, but look at the current situation. The three martial kings are trembling in fear. Wu Xiangwen's expression was grim as he cupped his hands and said, "For the Federation." This is such a morale-boosting sentence, causing Felisa to tremble. Isn't everything I am doing for the entire Federation? Felisa, who was originally in low spirits, gradually became confident. His back also straightened up. He immediately raised the hammer in his hand and shouted, "For the Federation." All of the soldiers trembled violently, their bodies that were originally trembling in fear calmed down, revealing the imposing manner that a soldier should have. Soon after, they roared, "For the Federation." Tens of thousands of people shouted in unison, shaking the heavens. In the face of a powerful enemy, the Federation did not cower. They used their own actions to prove everything. Regardless of whether it was the spectators around them or the people watching the video from all over the world, they all clenched their right fists and placed them on their left chests. "For the Federation! For the Federation! For the Federation!" A deep and loud sound spread throughout the entire blue ardent star. This was something that had never happened since the founding of the nation. Everyone's blood was ignited at this moment, and they all wished they could join in the battle. Sacrificing his life for the Federation. Reclaim the dignity of the Federation. Annihilate the enemy for the Federation. With the sudden rise of the president's aura, the murderous aura at the scene became much stronger. It could be said that he had gained back some face. Yi Hua looked at everything that was happening in a very natural manner, and he wasn't frightened by the imposing aura that the other party emitted. In actuality, he had seen this kind of scene too many times. There are some vile people among humans, but when it comes to the moment of life and death, they seem to be able to instantly unite together. No matter how strong the enemy is, they will still use all of their strength to protect their home. But I can tell you, if it was someone else, they might have a chance, but the one you met is me. Struggling would only bring about greater despair. This was the first time that Qingya and Donghuang Baiji had seen such a scene, and they could feel that the battle blood within their bodies had been ignited, and they really wanted to go down and fight. Donghuang Li's little hands were starting to itch. However, since her daddy didn't say anything, Donghuang Li didn't dare to act recklessly. Shi Tingting was almost stunned by the other party's imposing manner. It turned out that the people of the Federation could be so united. This was the first time she realized it. Wu Xiangwen walked out of the group slowly. His aura was majestic, and his body was emitting dense spiritual energy. He shouted, "You dare to fight me?" Yi Hua looked at the old man coldly, then waved his hand. Among the several tens of thousands of seven-colored warriors, one actually walked out. A light breeze blew over. It was not very cold, but for some reason, some people felt their hearts turn cold. This was absolutely ironic. This was a great humiliation. The other side actually sent a small soldier to fight. What right do they have to humiliate the people of the Federation like this? Wu Xiangwen looked coldly at the rainbow-colored warrior who was walking towards him from the front row. He was the same as the others, not the leader. He wasn't even a general, just a small soldier. He felt that his old face had been slapped by the other party. The other party actually sent a small soldier to humiliate me. The president and the others who were at the back had gloomy expressions on their faces. This kind of action of the other party is a deep look of contempt. Right now, we can only rely on Wu Xiangwen. I have to ruthlessly strike at the other party's contempt and let that man know that the entire Federation isn't a place that can be easily provoked. Right now, Wu Xiangwen was thinking the same thing as well. His face that was filled with wrinkles was moved, and his aged body slightly leaned forward, giving off the appearance of a ferocious tiger pouncing on its prey. Pull out your weapon. However, the rainbow-colored warrior remained unmoved. He stood straight and tall in his original spot, not moving at all. Swoosh! A red blade appeared in Wu Xiangwen's hand. A strange red flame ignited on the blade, and the temperature of the scene instantly rose by more than 10 degrees. Immediately, a berserk-killing intent emerged, and a violent gale abruptly arose. Wu Xiangwen's eyes shone with a strong brilliance. Wu Xiangwen, who had never been humiliated before, exploded at this moment. Boundless anger was burning his brain, and his entire chest felt like it was going to explode. I am going to use absolute power to kill this man in front of me. Fate, annihilation, Holy Spirit. Following Wu Xiangwen's shout, a dazzling saber light rushed up. The red flames on the saber's blade turned fiery red. Astral winds swept out in all directions with his feet as the center. Even the sky gradually darkened. Seeing this scene, everyone seemed to see hope. Such a powerful attack will definitely be able to kill a few thousand people. The ones who were the most shocked were the president and the three great martial kings beside him. Old Wu is about to break through to the martial king realm. Gao Han muttered, feeling incredulous. Felisa heaved a sigh of relief. As expected of Old Wu, he finally released his full strength. Amazing! Ha! Wu Xiangwen shouted angrily, and his entire body was instantly enveloped in red flames like a ball of raging fire. His entire aura reached a peak state. That ball of red flames turned into a huge blade and attacked the rainbow-colored warrior with a scorching aura. The ground was instantly scorched, and even the soil was emitting flames. Such a move caused everyone to be dumbfounded. So powerful! Too powerful! Instant kill this group of trash. The Federation is mighty. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.